introduce the members, then Secretariat, then I'll hand over to the CS who will introduce the rest of his team. So my name is Marianne Kitany, the MP for Aldai constituency, Vice Chair of this committee, and sitting in for the Chair who is currently in State House, but will be joining us in a short while. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Waria Guyo, Member of Parliament for Northor in Marsabit County and member of the committee.
Afternoon, I'm Joroge Wainena, Member of Parliament Kieni and a member of this committee.
Good afternoon, Dr. Jambo Undo is my name, MP for Funyula and a member of this committee.
Joshua Mbithi Mwalio, MP Masinga constituency and a member of this committee.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Adagala Beatrice, County MP Viga, and a member of this committee.
Good afternoon all. I'm Sakimba Parashina, member of Kajiado South and member of this committee.
Okay, thank you. And Nebat, please introduce your team.
Nebat Ikai, Lady Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Lois Olesia, Fiscal Analyst, Parliamentary Budget Office.
Just Fiscal Analyst to the Trade Committee.
Good afternoon, Priscilla Saidi from the Research Office.
Good afternoon, Muremi Mwangi from the Media Relations Department.
Good afternoon, Onesimus Kiragu, Sergeant at Arms.
Good afternoon, I'm Cosmas Ahonya, Audio Officer.
Okay, thank you. So the CS can now introduce himself and his team.
Thank you, Chair and honorable members. Good afternoon. My name is Moses Kuria, Cabinet Secretary, Investment, Trade and Industry. I've got a big team, but I've just asked my PS and senior officers to introduce themselves.
My name is Juma Mwana, PS Industry.
My name is Abubakar, PS Investments.
I'm the head of the river unit in the Ministry.
Gordon Mutugi, Business Reforms and Transformation.
Ishuru Kenas.
Good afternoon, members. Lucy Namu for KENAS, Kena Accreditation Service.
Good afternoon, George Mankateto, Acting MD, Numerical Machining Complex.
Good afternoon, honorable members. Fano Kidenda, Acting CEO at Kenya National Multi-Commodities Exchange.
Good afternoon, honorable members. Ken Chelule, Acting Excellence Authority.
Good afternoon, members. My name is Dr. Calvin Onyango, Director General, KIRDI, Kenya Industrial Research Development Institute.
My name is
My name is Hussein Adam Mohammed, Acting CEO, Export Processing Zone Authority.
Dr. Paul Kagera, Director HR Investments.
Emi Kirungu, Head Supply Chain Management Services, Investment.
Goya Joseph, Admin, Promote Investment.
Choki, Secretary Administration, State Department of Evans Gilani, Finance, State Department for Trade.
Philip Maida, Industry, Planning.
Tienzao, Industry, Finance.
Joseph Mbeva, Director of Industries, State Department of Industry.
Yes, Kirema,
Nobi Masharia, Director of Agro Industries.
Kurenja, Finance Officer.
Industry Planning.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm John Akoten, standing in for the CEO Anti-Counterfeit Authority, or ACA.
Patrick Kariuki, Numerical Machining Complex.
Guracha Adi, Kenya Investment Authority.
Please, we can't hear you.
My name
Robert. Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Odua, of Investment Promotion.
My name is Philip Barchok, Head Human Resource, State Department of Trade.
Good afternoon. My name is Kenneth.
I'm John Maura, Acting Director, Weights and Measures.
Konje Oliver, State Department of Trade.
Good afternoon. My name is Abner Abaga, Deputy Director, ICT.
Bernard Lucheri, Finance Manager, Kenya National Trading Corporation.
Pamela Mutua, here.
Swasike Kiti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we are done with the introductions. We may proceed.
Thank you very much. We are now joined by the chair, but before the chair introduces himself, we have a few other members who have also come in. I'll ask that those members introduce themselves as well.
Good afternoon. I am Kulo Malem Hassan, MP Banisa Mandera County, member of this committee.
Afternoon, Chair. Afternoon, CS. All protocols observed. I'm Mwago Amos Maina, Member of Parliament for Starehe Constituency, Nairobi County, and a member of this committee.
Thank you. Today, we are discussing the budget policy statement for the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Investments. And if we look at the policy from the previous government to the next government that we are in, Kenya Kwanza, it talked about issues of industrialization then, building Kenya, buying Kenya, and manufacturing. And our budget policy statement, which we are about to be told, will then tell us whether we are shifting from what it is that the previous government did to what it is that we need to do, because we are aware that Kenya Kwanza has a plan, or the plan. And in that plan, we have jobs that need to be created. This is the ministry that we understand is a ministry that is going to give us it's going to industrialize us, it's going to grow our economy, because today we know our dollar rate is going up and it continues to go up. So this, I believe, is the ministry that will give us the very foreign exchange earnings that we require. We look forward to hearing your proposals, to hearing your statement, and hearing how or what directions you intend to take us through. So allow me to hand over to the chair so that he can continue from here going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I am glad that, in fact, you have taken that part, and I'm sure you have welcomed everybody. So, for the purpose of maybe those who have not met, my name's James Mwangi Kuria. I represent Embakasi North constituency in Nairobi County, and I'm the chair of this committee. Let me extend my welcome to the CS and his team. And I just also want to put my apology for not being here on time. But I know CS is aware that the departmental committees were all invited to State House at the noon today for the same purpose of consultation of these BPAs. So that's where I was slightly abated, but it was a good meeting that we were made to get aware that there would be some changes in BPAs, and most of those areas who have been adversely affected with what we can say under budget. Once again, this committee, as Vice Chair has stated, this ministry is a ministry that actually Kenyans are intending to see the growth. And the growth, one, is creation of employment, taking into consideration that we have over 70% of youths that are unemployed. We are aware that the areas to do with white-collar jobs, they are not anywhere near. And the only area to create opportunities for jobs is industries and manufacturing areas. I'm glad that the CS has taken his mantle very well, and I am a witness that he's doing the best he can to make sure that, in fact, this ministry, this very potential one, as we know it's a giant, but it was giant which its potential was not well taken care of. It can now roar and at least give result to Kenyans as expected. See, as the BPAs we are addressing today, to me, it is totally below our expectations. Take into consideration that the expectation that this particular ministry Kenyans has. Failure to give enough budget to some department, that will just mean that our hopes will be totally doomed. One, we have an area of the new department, which is investment promotion, which is undertaking the area of special economic zones that are of very dear importance to this country, where we intend to have areas of potential like Dogokundu, free trade area, and an area that we expect to give this country a magnitude growth. If we fail to budget money that can be able to prepare or make this particular area thrive, then we'll be short of our targets. The other thing is areas like Naivasha, special economic zone, which has also not been considered. And it's an area of very important And if you fail to also take care of this, it tells me the expectations has also to be poorer than what we expect. Yeah, we have also an area of our textile, and we are all aware that in fact textile industry is a key sector of growth, and especially in the area of creation of employment. Then if you don't take care of that particular area, it does not matter whether we give that particular area something during the supplementary budget, but we have a lot of expectation of growth, and we are not going to extend and budget enough in that area. Our investment target will be in short, because we target that in fact we build as much as possible sheds that actually are going to give room to the new investments. So it's an area of concern, and going to the BPS, which is now with us, I'm happy that there are some reviews now which are going on at State House, and I'm aware the CS is aware of this. Maybe where we can expect by Monday, we can get more good results other than what we have. Otherwise, CS, I am aware that in fact there is something to do. There's something to do with about our counties, and if you look what is being put in the investment promotion, it's something close to 4.something billion money, which is purely going to 47 number of counties, as promised by the head of state. So if you minus that, that particular department is going to be almost nil. And in that aspect, if things will not work well, then you allow this committee to do what it can, but to make sure that we must safeguard the special economic zones and equally the EPZ. CS, I'm just heading to give you the floor so that you can be able to tell us, because you are the one who represent this ministry during the level of cabinet discussions. And also you have an upper hand to also bargain more to the executive. So we do expect that with you, we have a very strong bargainer who can be able to also give us hope in those areas of concern. CS, for now, I want to give you an opportunity to present what you have, and then we can proceed on that order. Welcome, Bwana CS. It's like we have no documents. I think those who have the document can circulate them so that members can have those files to follow. Thank you.
I think the documents are being circulated. Thank you, Chair. And I will take this opportunity, first of all, to thank you and honorable members for affording us this opportunity to engage with the committee and to present our vision, first on the BPS, but I think overall on the direction that we see this ministry playing in terms of helping the country and the government to achieve its objectives. Let me start from the outset, first of all, by apologizing. I know this session was supposed to take place last week, but myself and a number of my teams were involved in an investment roadshow in the Gulf countries. My PS for trade, as we speak, is in the UAE trying to conclude a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with the UAE. So we are working around the clock to ensure that we do what we need to do to drive this country forward. I am also encouraged by this committee, the kind of cooperation we are receiving, to thank you for the support you gave us during the supplementary budget. But above all that, it's not a question of money. It's a question of us seeing the same picture in terms of the critical role of production in this country. I'm saying production because today people are talking about debt. We are talking about interest rates. We are talking about exchange rates. Those are not the problems of this country. Those are symptoms. They are not the disease. The disease of this country is acute lack of production. That the productive economy is not working. We're just changing money between pockets. But if you ask yourself, what is that money producing? No country in this world can develop without production. And in my many tours across the world, it's becoming very clear that countries that are developing or becoming prosperous are only countries that are engaged in active production, meaningful production, and production at the right place. Because you can also have, upside down sort of production. So this is a background with which I and my team inherited the ministry. We found a ministry where manufacturing had dropped from 9% of GDP to 7% of GDP, where contribution of exports to GDP or export as a ratio of GDP had dropped from 28% to 10%, where we are not creating jobs, where foreign direct investment has stagnated at only $500 million for the last, I don't know how many years, and it's been dropping actually. So that is really the backdrop. And to be honest with you, Chair and honorable members, what I have done and my team for the last 4 months with the support of His Excellency the President and the Cabinet and the rest of the executive, it's like we've had to start a ministry from zero. I can say that without a fear of contradiction. We have to start, put down everything that was there on matters of trade, start all over again, revisit completely afresh our strategy on manufacturing, re-establish from zero our approach on attracting investors and foreign direct investment. So it's been quite some work for the last 4 months that we've been in office. And I want to thank you because yourself, Chair, a few members, both from National Assembly and also the Senate, whom you've traveled with us and you've seen that there's really quite a lot of work to be done if we have to take this country back to where we are in terms of production. So I want to say, what are we doing now to reverse this? So we embarked on 4 goals. Our goal number 1 was said, let us get back manufacturing from where we are at 7% of GDP to probably by 2027 to target 15%, which was in the ill-fated Big Four agenda. And by 2030, raise that to 20%. So all the topics that you have mentioned, very well, Chair, are geared to getting this back country, first of all, to where we were supposed to be in 2017, when we created the Big Four agenda. And we said that we need to raise this to 15% of GDP. That was abandoned for reasons that you and I know very well. So we lost it. We lost the momentum. We lost the trajectory. So instead of jumping from 9% contribution to 15%, which was supposed to be in Big Four agenda, we actually dropped and came to 7% instead of increasing. Instead of increasing our export contribution to GDP, it actually dropped. So we said, at least within these 5 years, let us just do what Big Four was supposed to do if there was focus on it, to raise manufacturing contribution to 15% of GDP. And probably take another 3 years after that to raise that to 20%. And I'll be able to take you through to what we are doing and what we need to do in order to do exactly that. So the first agenda is to raise manufacturing contribution to GDP to 15% by 2027, and by 2030 to raise that to 20%. On the issue of export, we put up on ourselves a very aggressive target to take it from 10% to 30%. And it is possible, because before we dropped the ball on these issues, we were already at 28%. So just saying, go back to where we are. In fact, just marginally increase it. Because we are not saying things from the outer space. There's a time that this country was exporting. There's a time that this country, the GDP was 28% contributed by exports. So it's not rocket science. It's something that is doable if there is a right focus. And we are saying, on the area of investment promotion, let us raise our level of foreign direct investment from the current $500 million to $10 billion. And again, we give ourselves this crazy objective of doing that within this calendar year. And we are convinced it's doable. Why we put that target is because we are going around and we are seeing investors who have been neglected. They've not been handled well. We have not treated investors in this country like people who have an option. And investors do have an option. That's the bad news. But the good news is that investors love this country. We have a very sophisticated workforce. We have a very robust financial services sector. We have got very warm, hard-working people. We have got a very stable macroeconomic framework. We have got a very solid, stable political stability system with, peaceful transition year on year, every 5 years. Bar the problems, few problems here and there, we've remained fairly stable and fairly peaceful. These are the things that matter to investors, and they're not lost on them. We've got a wonderful climate. People have to come here to live, for holidays. So we have got everything that goes for us in terms of Kenya being a center for attracting foreign direct investment. So when we say $10 billion and we say we can do this within this calendar year, it is doable because we go out there, we talk to the serious investors of this world. We know even $10 billion, my goodness, it's nothing. It is like the budget for milk in some Fortune 500 companies. So it may appear like something very big, but we are convinced that this is something that is very doable. So these are the objectives which we have put on ourselves. And Chair, you are very right. Let me give the background to which the BPS was prepared. As you know, and yourself, Chair, and myself have been in this committee, the budget committee for quite some time before my current role. Budget making process starts immediately. The old budgets or the preceding budget kicks in. That is on the 1st of July. That's when now departments start collecting their documents and putting together sessions, sector working groups. So budget making is not a static process. It's a continuous process. And by the time that this budget policy statement came to be prepared, as you know, there's a statutory, constitutional timeline for preparation and presentation. The current government had not fully seized itself of all the issues that needed to be in a budget policy statement. So we found ourselves in this situation. Here is a Kenya Kwanza plan. which talks very, very loudly about issues of job creation, value addition, manufacturing, industrialization, vis-a-vis a budget policy statement which was largely borrowed from the previous government. And governments exist in perpetuity. So you cannot say I'm stopping this particular process from going on because I have a new plan. So because of the adjustment nature of having a new government, some of the issues, if you look at the budget policy statement, and when I say that some of the issues that I'm having to deal with as a ministry were actually acquired from the other government, it is actually to prove, that this ministry and issues of production were neglected. If you want to know how neglected they were, just look at the current version of the budget policy statement. It is actually the presentation of the neglect, where we keep on talking about jobs, and we keep on talking about, having, macroeconomic stability. But when it comes to doing those things that are supposed to achieve that, you find a very big difference. So the exercise that is going on within the economic team, the presidential economic team, the process that is going on within this, esteemed committee and this engagement is actually an effort now to bridge between the BPS as we acquired it from the previous government, and now to input into it our very lofty aspirations and ambitions when it comes to the issues of production. And I want to thank you very much because you have actually taken as a committee cognizance of that fact. We look forward to working together. I want to confirm to you that His Excellency the President is aligned and his entire team, economic team, that we need to do something to remedy the sort of mismatch between the Kenya Kwanza plan, the Kenya Kwanza ambitions and aspirations, and actually the empty shell that we have acquired in terms of budget policy statement. So if I seek your indulgence, Chair, is to tell you now, because I don't really want to dwell much on the BPS as currently drafted or constituted, because it is going to be informed by this discussion, is to briefly tell you that other than what is in the BPS, what else is going on within our, and which you would want to see in, may I call it, BPS 2.0, that is different from BPS 1.0 as we acquired it. So we have got 4, 5, 6 budgetary proposals or areas, and quite a number of non-budgetary policy areas that I'm going to take you through, that we seek the indulgence of your committee to be able to actually create a match between the BPS and the Kenya Kwanza plan, and where we think really we need to take this country in terms of job creation. The first area is on the special economic zones. And the special economic zones are important. Why are they important? Because, first of all, this is where the world is going. Governments are realizing that they need to create some areas that are conducive to attract investors, to create incentives. We saw it in South Korea. We were there in November with the president. I've been going around other countries. Even rich countries are creating special economic zones. So we found it is necessary. Some of these special economic zones in our country were created a long time ago, but there has been more motion than movement in this area. So we want to be, and within this first year of the Kenya Kwanza full budget, to end this story, never-ending story around the special economic zone. Less than 2 weeks ago, we were in Dongokundu with the president, and we actually officiated over the first investor to enter the special economic zone of Dongokundu. We've been given a target. We've been told that there's a port, there's a berth that's being built there by the Japanese using a loan, that there is some roads which are being constructed, power and water, and this would be delivered by the year 2026. And we sat down with the president and said, there must be something wrong. If you are going to wait until 2026 for us to get investors and to create jobs and that are required and to generate the level of investment that we require in this country, and we have to wait for 3.5 years up to 2026, then there must be a serious problem. So what did we do? We sat down with the stakeholders, sat down with the county government of Mombasa, we sat down with all the other people, Kenya Power, name it, all these people that we require are working together to deliver this. And he said, can we come up with a strategy that would see, as the president puts it, chew gum and scale the stairs at the same time. And we said it's possible. Today, Taifa Gas, a Tanzanian company, which is investing close to 15 billion shillings in that project, they are on the ground now. We've broken ground. Do we have the bath at the port that is being built there? No. Is there that 3 kV line which we are told to wait for? No. So many of these things. Do you have the big water supply that is supposed to come from Zima water project down there? No. But we say that there need to be some practicality. We need to do some things that enable investors to continue putting up their investment while we try and deal with the other things. So as we speak now, Dongo Kudu is live because an investor is there. Within the next 2 months, I'm expecting to take more and more and more investors down there. So we need support from this committee as we look at the big infrastructure issues, as we look at the port, as we look at the road, as we look at the power, to get at least some investment, some money, some funding, to be able to do some other downstream work to enable investors to get into Dongo Kundu. I moved to special economic zone in Naivasha. A lot of money has been put there by the previous government. Yes, it is probably 40 to 50% done, but we need to complete it. But even as we complete it, the mindset that we are bringing to this ministry is let us do it now. And let us not, sometimes perfection is an illusion. So as we speak, we have an investor, a Turkish investor who is an anchor investor in Naivasha. Containers are just being offloaded in Naivasha as we speak. Today, there are some Kenyans who are going to put food on their table because of the decision we've taken that let's have the investor coming on the ground. Whether we are perfect or not, perfection is an illusion. It will find us on the way. So, we are doing our part. We have opened the door for investors. Investors are in place. Jobs are being created. Preparation is happening. Help us, assist us, support us with the funding we require at least to make life at least bearable for the investors that are coming in place. The most potential in terms of transformation, special economic zone that we have, in my opinion, is a special economic zone of Lamu. Lamu is not going to be just a special economic zone. Lamu is actually a city. We are building a completely new industrial city or economic city there. It's not just a zone. Because if you look at the potential of Lamu, we have got 3 baths there that were constructed. By the way, we have zero debt now on those baths. All those 3 baths in Rapset, in the port of Lamu, were built by your money and my money. That is taxpayers' money. But sadly, the cargo being handled by those 3 baths, which have cost 56 billion shillings, is only 5% of capacity. Because planning, I don't know, sometimes I wonder, Anyway, we spend 56 billion shillings and we don't ask ourselves, when we finish spending this 56 billion, where is a volume of business that is going to take off that particular investment to give us a return on investment? So we actually put the cart before the horse. In my opinion, the right thing would have been to start with a special economic zone so we can start economic activity so that when the port now comes into life, then it will find some cargo and some traffic. So here is where we are. We cannot live in crying and blaming others. We need support we have got a lot of investors willing to come and put up their industries and their logistic zones and their value addition centers in Lamu. So please, we have got the initial 4,000 acres, which has got zero squatters, zero encumbrances. It's clean. We need to start on that. We need to start building the roads there in the special economic zone. This is very important because, Chair, if we don't do something to put money into Lamu special economic zone, even the 56 billion that has been spent on building the 3 baths with money and your money is going to go down to waste. If we don't spend some money on the Lamu special economic zone, even other investors, because Lamu has got a capacity of 20 extra baths within this coastline of Indian Ocean. Lamu is the most potential in terms of expandability space. Dogokudu has 6 more in addition to the 1. Mombasa, Kilindini has got only 3. You can only expand with 3 baths. So if we want to expand our logistical, coastline, the potential, the only place that has got real potential for growth is the port of Lamu. But there's a chicken and egg situation. If we don't start the special economic zone now, then there will be no justification for even private sector investors to come and build the 20 extra baths. If we don't start the special economic now, even 3 baths that you have constructed with taxpayers' money are going at 5% capacity utilization. So that is another reason why we need support in the Lamu special economic zone. I moved to Kenani special economic zone. Kenani was built as a leather park. The good news is it is 75% completed. We need your support to complete the other 25%. And in any case, support or no support, we have also decided that within the month before end of April, we are inviting investors in Kenani Leather Park as a special economic zone. Why is Kenani important? Kenani is important because today we have got a lot of skins and hides that we get from our livestock. They go down to waste. Our capacity utilization is very limited. A lot of our communities, our pastoral communities, they depend on our livestock for their livelihood. This year alone, the last calendar year, 2022, we lost animals worth $1.8 billion. That is over 200 billion shillings of animals that were lost to drought. Meat was wasted, skins was wasted, hide was wasted. Opportunity was lost that we could have used for value addition. These 200 billion shillings plus is not from rich people. It's from poor people. To me, it's criminal. Because if it's from rich people, someone can understand. But this is what I call sometimes conspiracy against the poor. So anyway, what we're going to do in Kenani is that this leather park is not necessarily for big companies. Big companies are going to only do the off-taking. We are rounding up all the SMEs, people who are involved in skins and hides from all over the country. We allocate them space. We have lined up funding from commercial banks and other development partners. We give them loans. We give them common user equipment for making shoes and such other products. We use companies which have been in this space to teach them how to value add the hides, the skins into leather, into products. So that now, not only are we going to have a leather park, but that leather park should also benefit the hustler back down there. So it's not just about having 2, 3, 4 big companies better there. I don't know which company big there. It is also something we call inclusive growth. And the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza was very, very, very pronounced on inclusive growth. That it's not just growth because you say that we have got 7% contribution to GDP. 7% growth in GDP. Who is also partaking that growth? And if we have to attack poverty in this country, we also have to ensure that we have inclusive growth. So we need your support to have some funding to finish off Kenani, convert it into a special economic zone for SMEs, bring the hustlers from all over the country there, give them the loans, give them the equipment so that they can be able to partake this activity. If I would cut time just to tell you about the other special economic zones, I've talked about the ones really which for me are the main drivers, but we also have a financial district that we want to create a special economic zone for the Nairobi Financial District. Africa is being managed from out there, from Dubai, from New York, from Shanghai, from London, from all this. We have a big opportunity now to be the financial hub for Africa. We created a Nairobi International Financial Center some few years back, which was purely about incentive. But the world is moving beyond incentive. The world is moving to physical spaces where financial institutions can come in together. Kenya is not a mining country. We hope to be a mining country. Kenya, the one thing that is our goal is our services, our financial services, our fintechs, our M-Pesa, the enterprise of our people. So we cannot say we are lagging behind on mining, and then again we lag behind on financial services. Because most of the investors who want to come here, they say, we want to come to Kenya because Kenya has a very robust, modern, sophisticated financial services sector. So the Nairobi Financial District Special Economic Zone is going to bridge that gap, and so that we can have the banks like JP Morgan Chase, who I was talking to them the other week. We can have Deutsche Bank of this world. Now these banks are managing Africa from Dubai and other places. We want them to come here to Nairobi, to the Special Economic Zone of Financial Services. So as we have got Special Economic Zones for manufacturing and for other things, we also have a Special Economic Zone for one of the mainstays of our competitiveness, that is a financial district. So we also have the Numerical Machine Company. Most of you know it as that company that gave us a Nyayo Paniaka. A lot of work is happening within the NMC. They are now housed at the railway. I have conspired with my colleague C.S. Mulcomen to chase them out so that they can think out of the box. So they have got land in Athi River. We have agreed, and that's why I've dispatched one of my most experienced officers, George Makacheto, to be the acting CEO there, so that he can be able to take off the new vision for a Numerical Machine Company, which is going to be a special economic zone on the area of green engineering, all the materials that are being used by Kengen, by Kenya Power, by subcontracting for companies like Isuzu, Toyota, and all that. We have a lot of potential. And the special economic zone that NMC is going to put up in Athi River is not just for them to manage. Again, like we are doing for leather, we are rounding up that Yuakali guy in your constituency and bring him to the green engineering park, which we want to put up in Athi River. Give them some space. Give them some capital. Give them business, because we have agreed with, for example, automotive companies, the issue of electric vehicles, the issue of motor vehicle parts. We can be able to make them there. But again, in line with what we are calling inclusive growth, we want to ensure that it is not just the big companies that are doing that. We are going to get the SMEs. We do capacity building. We give them the space. We give them the capital so that they are also able to supply to the big company through subcontracting. Finally, on the special economic zone is what we are calling the Nairobi City Special Economic Zone. I'm sure you've gone through Gong Road. You've seen the kind of thrift and enterprise our people are going through. Furniture shops, all these shops. We are also going to have a special economic zone for the city. We are talking to the Ministry of Agriculture to convert some 600 acres of land that is used once a year, 1 week a year. 600 acres. I'm talking about the Jamhuri Park, the show, where there's a showground. A showground of 600 acres in the middle of city, where property in the neighborhood is crazy in terms of value, is being used one time a year. So we want to convert that into a very special economic zone to take care of all those hustlers, the furniture people, the food people, to feed the city and also to be able to export. And we need your support to take off those special economic zone. So those are the national special economic zone. On top of the special economic zone, our second major area of in our agenda for manufacturing, raising manufacturing and raising export, of course, is our EPZ. If you look at countries like the US, 70% of our exports to the US come from one place called Athi River, the special economic zone in Athi River. Yet, we have got now investors because of some of the other countries under the AGOA regime, the American Growth and Opportunity Act, have problems of their own. A lot of investors are coming there and say, I have a problem in this and that country. I don't want to name the countries. So give me the space. I want to move in my machinery here, especially on textile, where we can do extremely well. We can create millions and millions of jobs. You know what is letting us down? We don't have spaces. Today, I have got a waiting list, which I think if you go by the current speed, this waiting list of people who want to come in, some of your committee members, including yourself, the chair and the vice chair, and some of the committee, you are with governors in Ethiopia when you were there. You saw some of the investors there. You see what Ethiopia is doing. If I go with the current funding space as existing in the BPS now, it will take me 23 years to finish the queue that we have on people who want to come with their money, with their machinery. All they are saying is, please kindly give me manufacturing space. I want to be here because I want to take advantage of the AGOA. We are now in discussion as trade ministers from AGOA on the extension of AGOA beyond 2025. Sometimes I ask myself, even if we get extended, for what? If I can't satisfy Africa, forget about Kenya, is not utilizing 0.05% of what we can, it's just for one product called the apparel. If you take a country like Sri Lanka, I'll just give you an example. Sri Lanka has a population of around 20 million, less than half Kenya population. So who needs a job more? The Kenya of 56 million people, of Sri Lanka of 20 million people. Yet, Sri Lanka has got 500,000 jobs. 500,000 jobs in the apparel sector. Yeah? And we have got 50,000 jobs. They are exporting $4.5 billion worth of apparel to the US. We are exporting only $500 million. They don't have preferential treatment in the US. Kenya enjoys duty-free, quota-free access to the American market. So just by going by Sri Lanka, we can at least create, on the very minimum, from this sector of apparel only, 3 to 5 million jobs easily. What is holding us back? We don't have spaces. Investors are coming, they are going. They are going to Benin. Can you imagine? I'm not sure even many members know where Benin is on the map. Benin is beating us. Investors are moving to Benin because they cannot get space within our EPZs to be able to expand. So we seek your support to fill up at the river. 200 acres we have there can just create 2 million jobs instantly on apparel. I know because in December when I was in the US with the president, I sat down with the American Association of Fashion and Apparel. They have got all the big buyers, the Costco's, the Walmarts, and name it, all these big people, JCPenney. And we agreed with them. I am giving them actually an office in my office as an association so they can be close to their supply. Yet, we are not moving because we don't have space. We are not moving because Rivertex is not moving. We are not moving because very basic things that we can be able to do. We really need to think that jobs are not going to come by miracles. It is when we create a conducive environment for investors to come here and manufacture and export and bring in the foreign currency that we are going to whatever. So I need your help to set up, fill up at the river. Behind Rivertex, there is another export processing zone which we have set up there. I'm going to gazette it before Friday, so that we able to also get the raw materials from Rivertex into that particular EPZ, which has got it has got investors anyway. It has got already ready-made investors who are ready to move in there. So we need your support on that. So the other area, and I think Chair has already touched on this, is on our counties. All this is good. having special economic zone is good. Having export processing zone is good. But we also need to ensure that we also have inclusive growth. We cannot have inclusive growth if we have got industrialization only in Nairobi, Mombasa, Eldoret, and the large towns. So that's why we developed this strategy for the county aggregation and industrial parks, which is actually a two-in-one concept. The first concept is on aggregating agricultural products ready for market. And we borrowed from a benchmark, Twiga Foods, where I took all the governors some 2 weeks ago. I took all the governors to Twiga Foods. And they saw in Twiga Food, they are only satisfying 20% of their demand for bananas. Yet in our counties, bananas are going to waste. Avocados and mangoes, out of every 10 mango or avocado that leave your farms in your constituencies, only 3 get to the market. Because we have got 70% post-harvest losses on mangoes and avocados. So the medicine for that, the remedy for that is this aggregation. We are going to do aggregation in all the counties, set up this aggregation, which can do 2 things. It can be able to export fresh mangoes, fresh avocados, fresh other products, or we can be able to even get even more value and more money if we are able to do value addition from these centers. So what have we done? The president, we've had 2 meetings, one in Naivasha, another one in State House, and we've agreed with the governors that the president has offered to give a conditional grant of 100 million shillings for every county. That is 4.7 billion shillings, which we hope that we will revise the PPS to do that. And the great thing is, when I took all the governors for this tour, both at Kildi for the value addition and Twiga for the aggregation, governors by themselves, they said, on the very minimum, we are matching your contribution as a national government. So the lowest governor, county, has pledged at least 100 million shillings. Some counties are giving us 200 million shillings, 300 million shillings. I want to take this opportunity really to thank our governors because, they've seen it. Why should they not see it? They are the ones who live with poverty every day and unemployment and all these problems we have from the bottom of pyramid. So for the first time, we have an amazing convergence of policy between the national government and the county government. This is not the managed equipment scheme where there was push and pull. This is one area where governors, without anybody coercing them, out of their own volition, we have a governor saying, you've given me 100 million and you are giving me expertise and project management to take it forward. And you are also going to help me to export whatever comes from there. I'm adding my 300 million, 400 million, 500 million. So this is very good. This comes as part of their allocation of their shareable revenue as a contingent, as a conditional grant. So I think this is one project, again, if you assist us by, out of the generosity of your hearts, to even add us more money other than the 4.7 billion the president said. If you can give us another 4.7, I got 4.7 from the president. I'm sure this committee can give me another 4.7 billion so that I start with around 10 billion. Then the governors can give me another, maybe close to 5-7 billion. Then these county parks have taken off. And I can guarantee you, I gave them a target. In every ward, we need to target that we are going to create 1,000 jobs per ward. So that sort of should act as an equalizer for those people with more wards and less wards. Because this is the only way. And I'm talking those as direct jobs, not indirect jobs. So that is on the county aggregation industrial parks. Where are we going to take their products? We need to have also other warehouses, not here in Kenya, but in the export market. So we want to set up warehouses in the key markets. Today, if you give me the money and I set up the 4 warehouses I want to set up in eastern part of DRC, then you can rest assured that somebody from our constituency can be able to export something to Congo without ever stepping in Congo. Because the government is going to go to Congo, set up those warehouses there, take up products from the Nandi County Industrial Park, use RFID and other labeling, send it there, and then they send you Mr. So-and-so, your mangoes, your avocados, your whatever have been sold. This is a customer. This is your batch number. The money is in your account. This is again making our export, not just exporting, but making our exports to be, to be inclusive. To have somebody, even that hustler down there who does not have a passport, will be able to, partake into this export, which is today the preserve of other, the big players. So how do we then now, in those markets, how do we promote? So we have told the people on the ground, please produce. We have the county industrial park, we have the special economic zone, we have the EPZ, we have done that, we have produced, and we have got even that warehouse there. How do we now then promote our export? So to do that, we are seeking the support of this committee to change the model of our, trade attaché, the current trade attaché. Today, the trade attaché who is supposed to promote our export, he is lost somewhere in the embassies. And what we want to do, we want to use one of our state corporations known as KEPROBA, Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency. We are actually, to make it, that name sounds unworthy even to many people, and it's not recognizable out there. It is not in line with other conventions of similar bodies out there. So to make it in line, we'll be sending some proposals for amendment to rename it into the Kenya International Trade Agency. And then we want to open offices all over our key markets, so that when I go to DRC, I have an option. I can go to embassy in Kinshasa, but maybe let me use South Africa. That's the best example. The embassy in South Africa is in Pretoria. That is not where the business happens. The business happens in Joburg and Cape Town. So I will leave the ambassador to run diplomatic issues from Johannesburg. And KEPROBA, now to be known as KITA, is going to open our commercial export agency in Johannesburg, where the market is, so that all these products coming from the hustlers are making its way into the market, and we have people who are actively promoting that. So basically, we can ask for many things. But for me, if we get support from this committee on the issue of the special economic zones, budgetary support, if I get budgetary support to fill up our EPZ, if I get even more budgetary support to ensure that in every county, 47 counties, I've got an aggregation and industrial park where our products and jobs are being created at the bottom of the pyramid. If I get support from this committee to ensure that I have got export offices in all at least 50 countries, then we are going to be ahead. If now also I get some recurrent support, expenditure support to support our trade negotiations. Right now we are on a borrowing missions. We are behind on so many trade negotiations. As we speak, I am negotiating with the UAE, I'm negotiating with the US, I'm negotiating with the EU. I have got a revision of our BTA, bilateral trade agreement with the UK. I'm traveling there in 10 days time to conclude that one. We have got South Korea, we've started. We are reviewing our AGOA. We are reviewing our EAC. We have got a tripartite free trade agreement between SADC, COMESA and AGOA, the one that you saw me go around meeting the president, trying to expand the barriers of our market. All that requires money, so that I don't just create and produce. I also have money to grow export and enter into trade agreements into other countries who we need to open our market. Then we are going to be ahead. There are some other areas which can be fixed. Of course, I need money also for our Kenya Investment Authority to continue attracting FDI, as I've told you, our very robust and very aggressive target on foreign direct investment. So basically, those are the areas that are going to take back our manufacturing to where it was, grow our export, and grow our FDI at the same level. So those are really the most pressing budgetary needs that we need to undertake to fulfill this mandate. But also, there are some policy issues that I want to seek the indulgence of this committee and assistance. And we have to really be honest and, to be true to each other. One, all of you have seen the problem we have with our foreign currency. Today, if you go to some of the banks, and you try to apply for dollars, even getting $5,000 is a problem. This is being created by three things. Let me start with what is outside our control. Because as you know, America is having its own strategies. And America, because of the interest rates, they are raising, the Fed is raising the interest rate. Even this week, I think it may go up by another 50 basis points. Just this week, that's my prediction. So, because of the way the Fed is playing around with the issue of interest rates, the dollar is becoming very expensive. So, in so many ways, this is not just a Kenyan problem. It's a global problem, but Africa has been hit the most. Today, I've got my tea exporters. They cannot export to Egypt because Egypt is not paying them. It's not because they don't want to pay. They just don't have dollars to pay them. I'm talking about Egypt, Pakistan, another of our key market for tea. So because of the way the Fed is managing the issue of the dollar, so this is a global problem. That's number one. And that one, I can admit, is largely out of our control. The second problem with this issue of the foreign exchange is really our culture of importing everything. And we have to choose. We cannot be crying from one side that we cannot, that we have problem with dollars. The other side, we are importing everything, even that what can be made here. We are importing toothpicks. Our factories here are crying because we are importing even things that can be done. I have no problem if we are importing things which cannot be here. But for crying out loud, honorable members, please support me. We take a decisive action on imports on things that are done here. I have proposed to Treasury that we set up a levy, which we are calling the Export and Investment Promotion Levy, on those products. I have given them a Schedule 4, which I am convinced with my team that these products can be done here locally. I will keep on expanding that list. Those people who are used to importing everything and sucking from our blood, of course they will make noise. They will fight me. I'm seeking for your support. We cannot continue doing things the same way and expect different results. People invest their money, billions. I'm asking investors, come in here, set up this factory. The following thing, some imports from wherever. And they're asking me, why did you tell me to import in the first place? And those people who are importing, they are very rich people. They have a lot of money. But where is their money? They put their money in London and in other places. We have got a very liberal policy where you don't restrict movement of capital or profit. And we're not about to change that. That is here to stay. But some people, they make their money here by importing. They take their money to London. They take their money to other places. I wish they were taking that money to invest here. So I need to incentivize those people who are courageous enough to invest here. Because don't look at it just from taxes or from jobs. Look at it when we import. This month alone, there's a product called billets, which is a steel product. We are going to import billets worth 16 billion shillings this month alone. 16 billion is not being imported in Kenya shillings. It's being imported in dollars, in hard currencies. There are people here, 16 companies, 17 companies, which have invested in manufacture of that product called billets. What am I going to say to them? That you allowed us, you told us to invest in here, you are even going all over the world, asking for more investors to come here, and yet to us who are here, then you kill us through imports. Every country protects its own manufacturers. Every country protects its own investors. Even if we don't do it, the other day, I was in Uganda talking to President Museveni because one of our steel companies here cannot import iron ore because Museveni has said, no way, you are not going to sell our iron ore in, raw form. He's ahead of us. He's thinking for his people. He says, value add here if you want my support. I had to go there and form a partnership with him on how we are going to actually approach this issue. And he sent a delegation to our president, a very senior minister, to work with me on this particular issue. So don't be, some people come and tell you, no, these are barriers, these. National suicide is not an international obligation on the side of Kenya. We are not going to commit suicide and say this is part of international treaties. We are going, as long as I'm minister in this ministry, I'm going to entrench our national interest first. Kenya first, and our people first. Let's look at the other thing that is really an intervention I want Parliament to help me with. You look at the dollars. Yes, I've told you there are external shocks because of the Fed and the strengthening of the US dollar. We have got this problem because of those importers who want to import everything, and they are protected by the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, who I'm told, I've looked at our statutes. I've not seen anywhere where KAM is recognized in our statutes. So I'll do what is good for the country. But also, and this is an appeal, I want you to talk to the governor of Central Bank. I don't know why he's lifting his foot from the pedal. Some people here, I know some banks, before they were making around 1 billion shillings revenue on forex business. Just for the last 1 year, they have made profits of up to revenue of 11 billion shillings on FX. You look at our spreads, our currency spread, 10 shillings. Where did you ever hear of a spread of 10 shillings between buying of dollar and selling of dollar? I know some of them, and I want them to come out voluntarily, but don't want to spoil people's businesses, who are holding up to $4 billion in cash. One bank, in dollars. What is it for? What are you holding dollars for if you believe in this country? So I want to ask the governor of Central Bank also to be tough on these banks, because other than the external shocks we're having, they are holding on to the dollars, and we really need to your support on that. So the other thing is we need your support on the issue of cost of living. As you know, we are being hammered out there every day. Cost of living is high. Some very unfair market practices on the side of some players. And as a government, we have got two options. We can do something as a responsible government and intervene. And we have decided to intervene. So where we find the private sector is not behaving very well, we are not telling you to stop your business. Continue with your business. Continue with your unfair practices. Don't say the government of Kenya is strangling you or forcing you to do things. Nope. We believe in free market. We believe in liberal economy. But we reserve the right to intervene. So when you hear noises out there, oh, government is importing edible oils, government is importing rice, government is importing, we are a responsible government. We've done our studies. We've done our forecasting. We cannot gamble with the stomachs of our people. We cannot gamble with our breakfast, our lunch, our dinner table. So we are, some of these institutions, the Kenya National Trading Corporation, was established in 1965. And why it was established in 1965 is to play a role so that where the markets don't behave in a certain way, we come back and we intervene and we play our role, so we seek the support of Parliament. And finally, is on the issue of privatization. Some of the areas like investment promotion, I have not asked you for a lot of support, because my ministry, through the Kenya Development Corporation, we still own a lot of assets we should not be owning. And our way of bridging some of this gap is by selling off some of our non-strategic. Well, government owns 40% of some alcohol company. Let me not name it. What business has government got to do in manufacturing alcohol? Surely. I think there are people who can do that better. Our president does not even take alcohol. There are people who could have done that better. But anyway, we have got some assets here which we can be able to sell. The Privatization Act bill, amendment bill, which is addressing this issue, is in Parliament. Help us, Chair, and the committee to fast track it. It is exempting KDC from the Privatization Act, or the requirement, because the business of KDC is selling and buying of investment of possessions. Our hands are tied because of this particular piece of legislation. Please help us to fast track it. I know it may be in front of another committee for privatization, but you are our mothers and fathers in Parliament. You are the committee, we know. Unshackle us, free us, help us to fast track the privatization bill so that we can be able to move forward and privatize and get some revenue, so as also to offload the pressure you have. So basically, that's our focus. That is what the BPS said and didn't say. That's what we want to see in the BPS. That's support we need from you. Let us work together to really do let us be that generation that found a problem, solved problems, and became change in this country. We have an option. If we don't confront these challenges, we will just be like people who have been there before us. Come fight problems. Say, oh, this is too much for me. Let me relax. Do my term and then go home. Can't we be those people who made a difference, who put Kenya out of poverty and on the line of progress and growth? I submit, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bona CS. I think the trajectories and targets are quite in order. But now coming to the BPS, let me allow at this point members to interject and maybe get to know issues around there. What do you have anything to say before I move the mic to Oundo?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, CS, for the presentation. I think you've given us the overall direction that your ministry and the Kenya Kwanza government is looking to go. Before I go deep into the issues I wanted to raise, I wanted to make reference to the letter that was written to you on what it is that we expect of today's meeting. And in that letter, it talks about the key sectorial policies that you have, which underlies the expenditure ceilings that you've been given, the programs, the sector working groups, and in all those you're supposed to indicate also cost of project, actual expenditures to date and all. Now, from the presentation you've given us, which is a PowerPoint presentation, we are unable to get this data. So I'm hoping we shall be able to get that, or there's still that part of the presentation that's coming, so that we know from what the CS has talked about, are they reflective in that statement? Those ceilings that that have been put there, in terms of, are there new projects, toll projects, where are we going, all these all these nice plans and the asks, are they in that statement, so that we as a committee can then interrogate to know that whatever the CS has talked about, which is really good, are actually in and are captured in our policy. Having said that, because the statement should also be accompanied by your asks. What are your asks? So having said that, I am happy with the first statement that the CS has said, that our country is suffering from one major problem, which is no production. And that is a really correct statement. And when there is no production, there is no development. I'm happy to have been in Bole Airport the other day with the CS. And if you look at the traffic in Bole Airport, vis-a-vis the traffic at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, you will pity us as a country. It's a far cry from what it used to be in the 80s and 90s. Ethiopian airport is one of the busiest. And when it is that busy, that tells you how much trade is happening in that country, vis-a-vis the kind of trade that is happening in our country. We as a country, we used to pride ourselves as being in East Africa, at least the #1, in terms of trade, in terms of development, in terms of growth. Today, we were in Ethiopia, you saw. Uganda, Tanzania, if we go to our port, our entry points, go to Isebania, go to Namanga, go to all the ports that we have, we are importing more than exporting. And that tells us that we are really doing so badly. It is a country that we should be looking for jobs for the young people who are in my village, who do not have employment right now. And if we do not change the direction, then 5 years from now, those young people will not only have died of alcohol and bangi, but they would have also gone into all these LGBTQ, whatever they are called, and all those things. Because there's no trade, there's nothing happening. So I get to the issues. The Kenya Kwanza plan is supposed to create employment, industrialize Kenya, bring in investment, in short, have a positive contribution to the GDP. The industry area we knew in the 80s and 90s, today is a dead zone. We don't have anything called industry area. And the CS is talking about having an SEZ in Nairobi. Even as we talk about that, we need to think about that industry area that we had set up and even done railway way leaves to carry goods from there to take them for export. That is an area that we need to think about. Industries need to come back again to Kenya. So, I'm happy that you've talked about the trade attaches. You've said that this trade attaches, the functions can be converted to KITA. And I'll give you an example. Let's have a trade attaché in the US. The US has 53 states. We do not have 53 trade attaches. We'll have one trade attaché attached to our embassy in Washington. The investor coming from Texas, I don't know when he'll ever get that trade attaché. But if we have an institution based in Kenya, knowing that my area of specialization, I need to capture the Americas, or this particular direction, will tell us that we will be able to get those investors, market us as Kenya. So I'm happy with that kind of move, that direction, and would like to see it in your policy statement as a policy shift in terms of how we plan to market Kenya. Looking at our SEZs, our industrial parks and aggregation centers, we need to look at the full value chain of the products that we need to focus on. I will take cotton, for example, because Rivertex is in your ministry. Rivertex requires cotton to be able to produce the cotton or the wool that will be sold to these investors in EPZ or other investors who will come in. But if we don't look at the whole value chain from the time that cotton is grown in our soils to the time it is produced in Rivertex to become a piece of cloth or to become the thread that will be sold, then we will have lost direction. Looking at products like avocado, leather, and all those kind of products, I'll take examples of avocado. The amount of avocado that leaves our country raw is quite much. We are not adding value. And the moment we take that avocado fruit out of the farm, straight to the port, and out of this country, we have lost employment for 25 or so number of people. We need to convert that avocado to avocado oil, either sell it in crude, or go further and do further productions to do cosmetics, edible oils, or all those other things. And that is the direction we should be looking at and thinking of as a country, so that that avocado fruit in the farm ends up creating not just employment for the farmer, but employment for the youth who have finished their high school, their college, have qualifications, and they need to use those qualifications in factories that add value to our produce. So the ministry, in my view right now, should actually identify those key areas, because we cannot manufacture everything. Key areas that we should focus on manufacturing, and ask that in this budget policy statement, let's support these particular key areas, because these are the areas that, if supported, will change our GDP to this, will give us X number of jobs, will increase our terms of employment from this number to this number. Again, when we are still on the SEZs, I don't know whether we have a legal framework or a policy on the public and private SEZs, because we know of a few Kenyans or a few investors who want to do private SEZs, and at the same time our own public SEZs. So do we have a policy framework that needs to be considered? And in terms of investments, are we able to categorize the kind of investments that can be done in Kenya? I say this looking at the recent issues of China Square. China Square, we are complaining and making noise that Chinese have come in to take up our space, the space that Kenyan investors should be in. But the question is, do we have that policy that says that this particular area of business is exclusively Kenyan? This particular area of business, investors can come in, and this particular area of business, Kenyan government can come in and invest directly. And I give that example and compare it with a company like Amazon that has wanted to come into Kenya. Amazon wants to come into Kenya. They can't come into Kenya because they are required to give a certain percentage to a certain investor in Kenya. Yet, we know the structure of Amazon company may not allow that. So we chase away Amazon to a different or to a neighboring country. Yet that company would have come to Kenya and created employment, created value, and also expanded our economy. So in terms of categorization of investments that can come, because again, this is a ministry that is looking at investments coming into the country. So do we have a policy? Have we set ourselves in a direction for investment? In terms of financing, we have not looked at the figures because we have not been provided. But I'm hoping in your policy statement, you have actually considered financing outside just the GOK funding. Because, and I'm happy the CS has said, he's been going out and looking for financing that is going to help. Because if we have to build this country, it is not going to take the 23 years you have talked about. We've got to transform this country within the 5 years that we have. And in those 5 years, we need to change and transform. And to do that, then we not only need to depend on our Kenyan economy, because if we depend on our GDP or our taxpayers' money right now, it's not going to take us to where we want. We need to ensure that we grow this economy, and to be able to do that, we may need to get funding from out. So I would like to see your statement also thinking outside the box, getting funding from outside. In terms of, there's something you've not mentioned it today, but I can see it in the presentation, on the international export warehouses. I have a big reservation on that, in the sense that we as a country are supposed to be moving away from investment. You have just mentioned about investment in things like alcohol companies. We don't do it, we should not do it. And I agree with you. And in the same breath, we should then not even have us investing as a country, investing in warehouses outside the country. Let's give that project or service to the investor out there, so that they are the ones who invest, because all we need to do is provide the market for our goods and services. And if we want that market out there, we get that market and be able to get our products to those countries without necessarily Kenya coming in as a part of the investment chain. Let's provide the policies and the framework. That is my view. In terms of investments in counties through the aggregation parks and the industrial parks, I believe there is a policy statement that is within the BPS, because I am yet to see it, because you are partnering with counties and to do this investment, to do aggregation and industrial parks. But how that partnership is going to happen is something that perhaps you need to tell us. This is how you are partnering, because in the budget, you want to put 4.7 billion shillings, which is 100 million per county, into an aggregation or industrial park. And you're saying that the counties have agreed to partner with you by also putting in their counterpart funding. But how is this going to be managed in the whole framework of our industrial parks? And where are we going to have aggregation centers vis-a-vis the industrial parks that we need to have? So those are some of the things that we need to look at. So we are hoping to see some policy statement with regard to that. When you look at the sectors, and I delve into the various sectors, let's start with the steel sector. The steel sector is a major sector in our construction industry. And you've mentioned about Uganda refusing to get us iron ore into this country for us to produce steel. So, but what policies are we putting in place in terms of our budget policy statement that are going to promote or advance the steel sector? And the same applies to the scrap metal center. We know of this council that is putting guns on the table so no trade can happen. But do we have a policy legal framework that we're going to put in place to ensure that whoever is going to sit on those boards and who is going to ensure that that particular council works do not threaten others? Because we should then have a place where people trade comfortably without having guns on top of the tables or under the tables. In the building and construction sector, this should be one of the biggest industries. That is where most of us Kenyans have invested, the building and construction sector. The cost of construction keeps on rising day in, day out. And as industry, as the Ministry of Trade and Industry, you are the people who should be helping us to get the cost of building coming down or going down. And this, I make reference to things like cement, because cement falls within our purview. I make reference to things like steel. I make reference to all other products that come within our building and construction sector. We are currently talking about affordable housing. How affordable is that housing if the policies we will put in place will not ensure that these products not only come down, but also are maintained at minimum prices? The automotive industry. We do not want to import finished product. We want to at least add value. At the very minimum, assembly. Are we supporting the assemblers that are here? And if we are supporting, what kind of support are we putting for them? So that in our statements we are saying, for this particular industry to survive, we need to have A, B, C, and D. I would like to see that. Then in terms of quality standards, very, very, very key. So that anything that we do in this country has quality. It actually takes care of the Kenyan consumer. So KEBS, Kenya's Anti-Counterfeit Authority, I don't know what directions you have as a ministry for those particular institutions to ensure that the quality of the products we are going to consume in this country are fit for human consumption. And related to that, of course, is the training and value chain, value addition. So again, because we have an educated workforce, but do we have a properly trained workforce for the kind of industries and investments that we are thinking about? We churn out many university students, but they become paper students. Do we have a training program that then converts them to the industries that we want to create? Because yes, we may create, and then at the same time, say we are now bringing in or importing experts to our country and leaving the very students whom we would have employed to continue being unemployed, because we have taken away their jobs and given them to so-called experts who will come with the investments that will come into this country. And then on the prompt payment bill, I think it should come like yesterday, because that is what will sort out our pending bills. This country is suffering from pending bills. Investors and traders are suffering from pending bills. Many of them have closed their shops. They've been auctioned, they've been mortgaged by banks because of pending bills. That is something that needs to be looked at like yesterday. And related to that is the story of imports into this country, import-exports. In terms of clearing processes, I don't know how we've made life easy. The ease of doing business. Because even as we think about investors coming in, even the local investors who are here, and the local should also have their lives easy in terms of doing business. So when it comes to imports and also the trading licenses, we know today that, and I come from a tea growing area, if that tea is to leave Aldai constituency to Mombasa, where it is going to be auctioned, it passes almost 6 counties. And in those 6 or 7 counties, there is something called cess that they will be charged. If by any chance that investor has a vehicle that is branded, they are also charged branding fee from one county to the other. So most of these people go with cars that are not even branded. So they don't even sell their product within Kenya because nobody knows their product. Ketepa cannot possibly have a branded vehicle because they will be charged from one county to the other for advertising fees. So in terms of ease of doing business and regulating or having one of those, one trade license, as we negotiate and as we talk to counties to do these industrial parks, are we also talking about what is the ease of doing business? How are we going to make our lives easier? So when a person comes to invest, the total cost of licensing is this, and this is the one-stop place that you will get all the licenses that you require, and this is the one-stop place that will harmonize all the licenses and all the issues related to setting up and running a business. So of course that becomes also the one-stop shop. We also need to hear from the ministry in terms of the trade agreements. We know that a country like Ethiopia is losing out on investors because of their loss in AGOA. They have been thrown out of AGOA, and those investors want to come to Kenya because they find Kenya still has AGOA agreements. But for how long will we have? Do we have them? Have we negotiated? Have we renewed? And what other agreements have we put in place so that as we talk about investment and attracting investors, we are telling them these are the agreements that we have, that we can tell you, come to our country, invest in our country, and you will be able to benefit or reap from those investments. And then finally, you've talked about investor groups like Kenya Association of Manufacturers, KEPSA, and all those associations. Though informal, they influence the policy and policy formulation. So in terms of engagement as a ministry, I don't know how you place them so that whatever it is that they suffer in industry or the good things that they have in industry, they help with the policy formulation of the policies that are going to be implemented in the ministry. And finally, of course, the cost of living. This ministry can help us reduce the cost of living. And if that is the major focus, we know that this ministry can change the lives of Kenyans and change the direction and the trajectory of this country. Thank you. I submit.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I think we can take one more from Awundo so that we can allow the CS to respond those first. Let us be short. The time is not very appreciating.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I just have a few concerns to raise with the CS. And I must admit we sat with the CS in the 12th Parliament. So, of course, he knows how we do our things. Number one, CS, we just need to put matters very clear. That today we are dealing with the budget policy statement. And in budget policy statement, we basically look at the overarching policy issue, and we might not go so much into the programs. Those we will pick when we are doing the budget estimates that will bring soon, probably the next one month or so. I must appreciate that at least you have identified 2 overarching policy prescriptions, policy objectives. That's of increasing manufacturing 15% by 2027 and increasing FDI or exports from the current 10% to 30%. Unfortunately, in the presentation you have made, we have not seen the policy prescriptions that will get us to that point. You don't start with a project before you know the policy prescriptions. Probably when you have a chance, you need really, from a policy formulation point of view, you start by identifying what the situation currently. Where are we coming from? What was the target? And if we miss the targets, what are the intervening measures that forced us that led to failure to meet the target? That has not come out very clear. Sorry to note that has not come out very clear. And probably we are still waiting. Again, it's quite telling, Chair, through Chair, that BPS, as we received the policy budget statement as we received it when we reviewed last week, I was on record that I was surprised to the bones that a whole government can bring such an inadequate document that purports to be a budget policy statement. In view of the manifesto by the Kenya Kwanza government called the plan, in view of Vision 2030, and concurrently now preparing MTP4, it's good that we have admitted there's going to be a revision, and I hope by this particular point, the ministry in totality, plus the counterpart or the sister ministry of cooperative and temperance development, whatever it is, ought to have put up their policy statement. I would want to hear from you, what has been the issues that have made us lag behind? And what are the issues are you going to address? What are the enablers? What are the missing enablers? And what is it you are going to put into place? We might build Dongokundu. We might build Naivasha. We might build Lamu. We might finish the never-ending Kenani Leather Park. But if we don't address the bottlenecks of the enablers, it's just high stuff, good for political rallies, might not translate to anything tangible. We need to go to the issues. From my best point of view, if you have to produce, what are the raw materials? What are the intervening raw materials? What are supporting raw materials? What policy prescription put in place to ensure that you address those issues? Typically, many manufacturers have complained badly about high cost of electricity. Unless this government addresses the high cost of electricity, we are just doing work here. It is going to be a talk show. Unless we address the bottleneck concerning taxation regime, we are just talking here for now apparently. We expect now at this particular point, as you revise the budget policy statement, knowing that it has got a statutory timelines, that we must have now have addressed as today, those issues. So when now the physical document comes, we are just have here to address. The issue that the CS and your team needs to address again, of most importance, is the governance issues. Not in this ministry alone, but the entire government circles. In the 2010 constitution, Bwana CS, we did away by roadside declarations. We said before we make any statement that has got impact on the lives of people, there must be an intensive consultation, and it must be put in writing, and it must fit in certain order. There seems to be attendance, CS. You have made very many policy prescriptions in the so-called we call roadside. Some of them, of course, have infringed on the mandate of other ministries, and that has brought some kind of uncertainty in the business world, in the production world. For example, the question of maize importation, the question of fertilizer management, the question of privatizing the universities, and those kind of things. It is important that as a government, and most of the sector that we supervise or oversight, we need to clearly be very clear in our mind, this is the structure of asking, basically setting up things together. Also, when we deal about governance issues, we are aware that the reorganization of the government required each ministry to have a delivery unit. In a policy statement, we have not seen the prominence you have given the delivery unit. Is the delivery unit only supposed to be domiciled the office of the president? What about the ones that fall into the various ministries that are supposed to feed into the issues at the next level? Those are now the issues you need to talk about. There are so much you could have wished to talk for now, to raise for now, but obviously, at the policy level, we are interested in policy, not interested in programs, not interested in activity. Those will come and prosecute when you come to deal with budget estimates. But you must also try as much as possible, ring fence the allocation to the sector. Remember that this process normally begins in September, and remember the Kenya Kwanza government was literally in place. I think ministers, I think the CSS were appointed sometimes in September towards the end of October. So they've got all that time over 6 months to get and put the ball rolling. We can no longer now blame the past government. Finally, I have an issue, CS, on the base, this idea of partnering with the county governments to open up aggregation centers and the rest. County governments receive equitable share. County governments raise their own revenue. County governments were given promise in the warehousing. That's where the matter. For sure, they must prove to us what have they done since they came into place. Instead of pumping money into them, yet we see no reason to give them money. The national government already has too much in its hands. It can no longer keep on pumping into county government, and county government has got their money. As I said, much more will be discussed when we bring your budget estimates, but for now, let's deal with these matters, and probably if time allow, we could have supplementary questions as we move forward.
Thank you very much. Allow the CS to respond to those. If you can make them short, CS, so that we can allow other members to also ask their questions.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. On your specific issues that touch on BPS and the allocations, because I hear Dr. Undo very well, Mheshimiwa, and I totally agree with him on the purpose of BPS is really on the policy statements. But I will say this, that the estimates, this is a cycle, this is a process. If you miss the boat on BPS, you miss a boat on all these other statutory timelines and documents, it will have a bearing on the estimates. I mean, the estimates cannot come from out there. I mean, it has to be based. The purpose you have the BPS really is to actually give a direction on our fiscal measures, so that whatever is appropriated by 30th of April must be seen to, I mean, that's the spirit of our budget making process. So therefore, it's a very interesting discussion. I think it has happened over the years between what gets into BPS and what gets into the estimates. But remember also, the BPS has an animal called the ceiling. If it was not for the ceiling, we would not be even talking about this. I think Parliament in its wisdom need to look at whether to unbundle the issue of the ceiling from BPS and put it in the estimates, because they confuse this entire process. That when we are thinking policy, and I agree with you, I wish this is just a policy discussion up there. But because we have the issue of the ceiling, and because of that, you can't avoid talking figures and what to put in there. Let me invite my two PSs to to respond to the questions, especially by the Vice Chair on the substantive issues on the BPS. I'll start with my PS for industry.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, CS. I think there was a question on whether we have answered the questions according to the questionnaire that we were given. Yes, we've done, and we did this State Department by State Department. We have requested CFOs to share with you information that has been prepared according to the way you had prescribed.
Okay, is it possible that they circulate that? Because we do not have it.
It's going, yes. Okay, thank you. Maybe if I was to respond to a few issues, then my colleague will do the same. I agree with the chair that as a country, I think we've had difficulties attracting investments. As we talked before we came into office, we find that even countries like Rwanda were actually attracting more FDI than ourselves, but we understand where we have come from. Through the leadership of our CS, we have put together a very concrete mechanism that is looking at issues of investments and also constraints that have made people not to invest in Kenya. You have rightfully indicated issues of power, taxation, and general. I think investors also think that our labor is quite high, although I don't think so. But the issues, we have a whole department that's addressing ease of doing business, and we are having a very comprehensive approach in terms of looking at what is it that has made people not to invest within our country. As you notice when we have traveled within our neighbors, when we are here, we also notice that some of them are also having challenges. But I do agree with you that we used to actually think that Kenya was doing quite well. But when you go around, I mean, you saw it in Ethiopia, nearly 400 kilometers of dual carriage way. So even the infrastructure, the policies, and power, for example, is quite cheap in some of these countries, and we are already addressing this both with the National Treasury, IPRA, the Ministry of Energy, and we are hoping, currently there is a review of the power tariffs, and we have made our presentation and our proposals, and we do hope that this can be addressed, Chair. The other issue that I would like to look at is the issue of prompt payment. I think we have indicated already this has been published in the Senate. The draft, I think Senate has already published and is calling for public participation. One of the big issues that we have seen around Kenya, Chair, is that there is a lot of scope for Kenyans to invest in industry, but we have not marketed. So most of the Kenyans who have money tend to invest in hotels, they invest in real estate, so people are buying land, building houses. But if you look at money in terms of what is available within the market, what we realize is that it is possible for Kenyans to invest in industry if we create the right environment. And one of the things that we are addressing is the issue of, through the county industrial parks, we are putting together an incentive system that will encourage local manufacturers and also small people to be able to put up small machines to venture into dairy, macadamia, avocado, because these people cannot afford to buy land, to build a factory, to buy machinery. But through the county industrial parks, we are providing ready-made sheds where small investors can buy a small machine and start to manufacture. But we are also seeing that there will be challenges because the way our supermarkets buy from us is 90 days, 60 days, and sometimes they take forever. They pay you in small bits, even when you have supplied a very small consignment. So the prompt payment bill will really help to address this in terms of if we make sure that everybody is paid on time, and there will be penalties and interest if you don't pay in time, then this will resolve that issue. The other issue that we are also looking at, Chair, on the policy aspects is an industrialization bill. It's interesting that all these years we actually don't have an industrialization bill. And that is an important, because that is the one, the county industrial parks that we are talking about are not anchored in law. So we think that through the industrialization bill, we can bring in the issue of government, county industrial parks, also to bring in the issue of Buy Kenya, Build Kenya. Already we have a policy on this. The policy currently is government institutions buy 30% of their procurement from goods made in Kenya. But we don't have an act of parliament to really enforce that. And we think that through the industrialization bill, we can bring in the issue of buy Kenya, build Kenya, and also the issue of local content. If you're manufacturing and there are items, if you're making a motorbike, and you can buy batteries from Kenya, that should be encouraged, so that if you can't make the whole motorbike in Kenya, there are some parts, tires, maybe batteries that you can buy from here. And we think that the industrialization bill will not only introduce the issue of industrialization mission, buy Kenya, local content, and even address the issue that the chair has mentioned. We have our own Kenya Industrial Training Institute in Nakuru that is not established by law. It is still a department within the State Department for Industry. And yet this is the only institution that is very, very important for training and building capacity for people to work within the industry. So we think that through the industrialization bill, we can also officially and legally create the Kenya Industrial Training Institute so that it can serve industries. And even KIRDI, because the role that KIRDI is doing is to incubate young people that want to go into manufacturing. So the way I see it, we don't actually need a separate KIRDI bill, and KIRDI is an incubator of industry being nested within that area. We have talked about industrial parks, and what I see is that there is a lot of interest, especially in specialized industrial parks. One of the most exciting and a low-hanging fruit is an industrial park for construction materials. We have a lot of land at East African Portland Cement. East African Portland Cement has been struggling. And yet, if you want to build a house in Kenya, tiles, you go north, roofing, you go south. So we would like to put a one-stop industrial park at East African Portland. If you go there, you find solutions all the way from machine stones, plumbing equipment, electricals, if you want solar, heating, and everything. So if we can do, and this we can do with in partnership with private sector, that if one goes there, you can be able to actually buy a whole house in that area. So I see a lot of excitement. I think those are the issues that I would like to respond to, and then maybe my colleague Abu, but let me take it back to the CS. Thank you.
PS Abubakar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, CS. Let me answer on the issue of investment climate. There are 3 questions related to investment climate. One is categorization of investments, or rather regulation of foreign investments. The Kenya Investment Policy 2019 provides for a negative listing principle. It recognizes that FDI is beneficial to our country in terms of job creation, in terms of technology transfer, in terms of technical know-how, in terms of foreign exchange earnings, but it also recognizes that there must be some local enterprise development from this FDI investment. So the policy provides for negative listing. We are now developing that list and will subject it to stakeholders for right sizing of the same. I think we had gone to Ethiopia and we saw that their negative listing is categorized into 3. The list, the areas in investor can touch. Then there's a category where foreign investment is free for foreign investors. So that is what we want to benchmark on that, so that we can be able to develop and adopt our negative listing, either through a policy statement or through a regulatory framework. The next issue touching on the investment climate is the ease of doing business at the county level. We already have a program in place with the Council of Governors with respect to harmonization and digitization of inter-county cess and multiple licensing regime in each county, so that we can have a single licensing regime. In addition, we are developing a county competitive index toolkit, which all counties are involved in, so that we'll be able to assess county competitiveness as far as attraction of investment is concerned. The third issue touching on investment climate is you had asked if we are engaging business chambers of commerce. Yes, we do, both locally and internationally. For Kenyan ones, we have already engaged for the last 3 months, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, the Kenya Manufacturer Association, and KEPSA. We have identified their issues, their areas of reforms, and we have an action plan on the same. For international one, we have already engaged the AmCham for Americans, the British, the European Chamber of Commerce, and I think tomorrow we are also meeting the Chinese Chambers of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Let me wrap up with some responses on the general policy issues. Madam Vice Chair, you raised the issue of on a program to support national export companies. Why is this necessary? This is necessary because for 60 years, we've tried to get that small guy at the bottom of pyramid to be part of the export chain. It has not worked. And responsible government exists for where the private sector is not moving quickly to take up the opportunity. Today, there is no law that stops anyone from setting up a warehouse in a foreign country. Yet no one is doing it. So, what we are thinking of, especially from an African perspective, is there's something missing in our trade infrastructure. And the national export companies and export warehouses have been identified as one way that can be able to help that small exporter from another country who knows nothing about that country to be able to bridge that gap. So it's not something that you want to do. It's something that you have to do because it is necessary. And by the way, what are we saying about our divestiture program? We are saying let us exit from those sectors where it no longer makes sense for government to be in and move to those other sectors where private sector is not moving as quickly. There will come a time when now private sector, maybe they will smell the coffee and move it to that particular area. At that time, the government will do what we are doing today. Move. I call it the lead and then recede policy. So we take a leading position. As private sector comes up, then we recede and we let them go. But leaving it the way it is now is really what is contributing to the low export basis. So it is something that is forced onto government, not just Kenyan government, but most of the African government, as a matter of necessity. Because I'll just give you an example. In October, we flagged off the first consignment of tea to Ghana in October. I had actually not even been sworn in with the president. I was a designated minister to Ghana under the ACFTA guided trade mechanism. That tea arrived in Accra in February. From October. It's supposed to be part of trade. Something is missing in our infrastructure. In terms of our roads, how we move our people, our mobile interconnection within Africa. Try to move from one country to another. Sometimes you have to, the other day, we wanted to move from Lesotho from Comoros to Lesotho. We had to come back to Tanzania, from Tanzania to Addis Ababa to Johannesburg to Lesotho. It is not very, very efficient right now. So probably one day, when the private sector takes up this mantle, we'll be able maybe to privatize. But for now, for some countries like DRC, there's no way. We have waited for ages. I've been following up the subject of export warehouses since, for the last 15 years. And we've been told there exists a very big market in DRC. If somebody could come up with a warehouse there to store Kenyan products, it can happen. I've waited for 15 years. I've not seen it. So now I'm in a position to do something about it as a minister to ensure that that guy from Funyola can also be able to, take up some space there in DRC. I have two options. I can wait for somebody in the private sector to take it up, or I can say, as a government, I'll move in. When the private sector comes, maybe I'll decide what to do. But do nothing is not an option. You've started something very interesting on scrap metal and people who are doing that business with guns. I want to tell those people that guns belong to the departments that fall under CS Kindiki and CS Duale, not myself. Scrap business will be done in a legitimate manner that is civil, and we are going to streamline this business. When they come with guns, as we battle the guns in the bandit areas, we will also, disarm those people in the scrap metal industry. MP4 Funyura has raised the issue of roadside declaration and encroaching into other people's mandate. The mandate of this ministry is business. Our business is business. We do not touch any other ministry's mandate. Unless we, for example, I'll give you an example. School uniforms. If you looked on the face of it, it was about education. But are you aware how many people had their tailoring shops out there in your own constituencies who had to close down because teachers have conspired with the people who make school uniforms? That is what we call unfair trade practices. And they have locked out all those small people within your constituencies. And we don't speak from point of no information. We get cries from business people. What am I supposed to do with my tailoring shop? This school has conspired with some big guy in Nairobi. They have a side business for supplying the uniforms. Please, at that time, I am speaking for the business person down there. Cost of living now is a shared responsibility between my ministry and the Ministry of Agriculture. So sometimes you'll find initiative coming from Ministry of Trade. Sometimes you'll find initiatives coming from Agriculture. But the good thing is that we have got a whole of government approach. I'm sure you've not seen any minister complaining about my mandate being encroached. We are one government, and we're really working in a coherent manner. And let me, because you've raised this issue of universities, let me say again, even if I don't see it, it will happen. And you'll see over the next 2 years. Situation. I don't have to say it. I can keep quiet and wait for it to happen. The crisis that is about to hit our public universities is monumental. And I'm saying this as a lover of education, first of all, on a personal level, because I'm a product of education. But today, even when we start to raise our national savings, our public universities are not remitting pensions. They are not remitting SACCO contributions. They are not paying salaries. They are not paying NHIF. And they are not paying NSSF. There are things you can hide. But surely, if I build a tarmac road, I cannot cover it with blanket for it not to be seen. Over time, in the fullness of time, that problem will come up. So today I'm the one speaking because I have got investors. I'm in charge of investors. And they're telling me maybe we can run this university better. So at that point, I'm speaking for investors. But even if I decide to keep quiet, the calamity will happen. And it will happen in 2 years. I am not wishing for it to happen so that I say, I told you so. But at least I will be on the good side of history. I've heard you about the issue of situation analysis, and we take that in good faith. So as we revise our BPS, we are going to try and come up with a narrative section of why we are doing. And I hear you cry, loud and clear, Dr. that it is not just the programs and what we are doing, it is the context. I don't know whether you are an economist, because economists are the people who say, yes, it is working in practice, but is it working in theory? So for us, it's working in practice, but we will also try to ensure that it is also working in theory. I thank you, Chair. But let me, last point on the issue of the lobby groups, the manufacturers, the issue of KEPSA, the issue of chambers. In May, we have a conference for Africa private sector trade ministers. We are working with the chamber and KEPSA very well. We keep on consulting Association of Manufacturers on these issues. We have no problem with the law-based and those groups. All we are saying is, please, it is okay to look after a certain group, but also let us look at the interest of Kenyans. Because if myself and my PS is here form a lobby group to look after ourselves, it's okay. But as a government, we have to balance, is what they are telling me, is it in line with what is the interest of the consumers or the wider market? So there's a balancing. We are going to continue engaging with BMOs, the business management organizations, in as much as them and us are aligned, that the supreme thing here is what is in the interest of Kenyans, not just interest of a few people. I submit, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Bwana CS, for those responses. Maybe I have a concern in one area of trade. And the battle that we are in, this battle is between our traders, the Nyamakema traders, Kamukoji, and so on. Matter to do with these China products. What are your intention to resolve this matter, as much as we would like to see a very level playing ground? Do you have any intention to maybe negotiate with these manufacturers of these commodities that actually we understand that actually our traders keep moving out of the country, and at the time that we are in a very serious crisis of dollar, is this not worth to negotiate with these manufacturers and invest and come here and invest here locally? And I think when they are here, our traders will minimize this appetite of moving to China every other day. Or what are your mission to create, to strike this balance? Your BPS, you have not heard you explaining whether you have factored this element of pending bills. Maybe you can allow us to get to understand whether the BPS addresses this. And in the area of there is this component of branding and export development program. Which saga does it lie on? Will it be a duplication with Kiproba? Because Kiproba does the same. Or what do we expect out of this branding and export development program? Is it a duplication? Kindly, you just let us understand. Industries, Mr. CS, what are your strategies to raise manufacturing. Today, if you can step to the industrial area is a known area where there are seas of humanity working to look for jobs. Today is a deserted area. What are your mechanisms to bring back sanity in this particular area of manufacturing? As much as we talk about this, about investors, have we done enough feasibility study to know what really kills the investors? Have we addressed that area? An area to do with our power rate. Do you still believe, as the CS, if something is not going to be done, that we are going to yield major fruits that we expect, compared with our neighboring here, Ethiopia? We made a benchmark last 2 weeks, but if you consider the rates of the power there, they are unbelievable. There is no comparison. How do we win back investment on a big magnitude that we can expect to give us a rousing answer? This, I believe that in fact, there has to be a serious, maybe cabinet discussion on this and find out what are the mechanisms. We realize that in Ethiopia, they are dependent on what we call dams. And that is where they create a lot of their energy from. Also, they have this wind power. We equally have the same. Why are we not coming into a level where we can be able to sustain our investors in this particular area of industrial energy? CS, the contribution of manufacturing to GPD declined from 9.3% in 2016 to 7.2% in 2021. Highlight the main challenges that led to this drop and how the policies contained in the 2023 BPS can solve these challenges. Has the ministry endeavored to conduct project appraisals to identify viable projects? What is the policy direction in the State Department with regard to non-viable projects? Finally, CS, Kildi is a nearing compression. Why hasn't the ministry prioritized moving its offices to Kildi to cut on rental costs? Can the ministry provide its strategies for cost cutting on rental expenses in the medium term? The reason why CS I am asking this, we have been always renting offices, but we have our own facilities. Why don't we prioritize to finish them so that we occupy them and then we reduce costs in this element of renting? And I think is a big concern. And in the area of our consideration policy, I think CS, the time has come and ripe that we must consider whether it is necessary to merge some of these sagas, because we have to look for solutions. And it cannot be a business as usual if we still keep on our previous methodologies of resolving problems. Because it's high time, CS, you have come with the team, and 5 years are very short time. Very short time. So as you are in this particular in effort to create this growth, also start identifying what should be done within this, because we have almost 32 sagas. But if you look along them, some of them are sleeping and are totally just earning public resources, but with no single impact. So I think it's of essence to take those considerations. Let me allow Honorable Bidhi to maybe take us through with one or two. Then from Bidhi we have this order. Let us move to Sieni, and from Sieni to Kiambu. Kindly.
Mine is.
I will come to. I will balance.
Mine goes to PS Abubakar because it's investment. There are so many flower investors and avocados and fresh produce who come from Israel, Holland. They come and set a farm here. And relying on the rain because of the rivers, that the water flow in Laikipia, in Naivasha, they rely on Lake Naivasha. In Laikipia, there is one river there which has now dried. Is there a policy to cushion them so that they don't run away, because they are the foreign earners? And if now it has not rained for about 3 or 4 seasons, now there are no products. The demand of the products from Kenya is so high in Europe, and yet the fruits and the vegetables and the avocados and the flowers are not there. Very few. What do you have for them so that they feel that they are in the right country? That is all my question.
Let us proceed to Sieni. He's stepped out. Kindly take that opportunity, Kiambu.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you for the very good presentation by PCS Kuria and your group. And I would like to say that, CS Kuria, you are a fresh of breath air, fresh air, because most of the things that have been bothering us as a country, you have you have them on your fingertips. So we are very excited as a country, as Parliament, to have you as the CS. And I would like to ask you a question that's very basic. You know, one of the issues that frustrate our young people or people who want to open up business is when they go to the Attorney Chambers, Commerce, they are asked to wait for 15 days to register a company. My question to you is, why does it take 15 days to register a company? Let me give you an example. When I was in America, where I went to school, I decided to open up a company after finishing school. So I went to downtown in Dallas, and I told them I wanted to open up a company. They asked me, do you have a name? So I gave them the name, and they checked, and they found that I was the only one with that name. And I was told, they took the paper and stamped it and told me, welcome, you can now start your business. Right there and then. Because they realized that business is what they need to move the economy. And I think here in our country, when I see us, the people at the Attorney General's chambers do not realize that we are a country that needs employment, we're a country that needs investment. And I would like to ask Bonasias if you can move the registration of companies to your office so that you know what we need, you know what's required, and also maybe to move other, to make it a one-stop shop, whereby, let me give you an example. We hear that in Rwanda, when an investor comes, when a chairman, the president sits with the investor there and sits with all the institutions that are necessary to open up a company. And he tells them, this person wants to open up the company. What are the challenges, or is it possible for him to open up the company? And why don't you do it right now? Because we've heard of Mr. Angote coming from Nigeria, and he was asked for a bribe and he went away. So we need to be practical, Bonasias, and get our country moving. So I think if you can have a one-stop shop in your ministry whereby we have the city council person is there, the Kenya Power person is there, all the required agencies, so that when they come, you are there with them, you sit with them. And if he's a very big investor, you even call the president, or we go see the president. And we do it in 1 week. And the investor is here. Because we realize that when they come, investors, they ask for bribes. And the people who ask for bribes do not know that the people in the village will come and attack him in his house, or attack the mother, because there's no employment. So I think we need to look at it differently, Bonasias. We know, we've heard of companies like, I was told by people in Kikomba that to get gypsum, which you put on the ceiling, it is now coming from Uganda, because the company that's in Uganda had come to Kenya, but when they wanted to invest here, the conditions were too harsh. They were being asked for bribes, so they moved to Uganda. We also hear that you guys made a chairman, you went to Ethiopia, and you know that the largest company today, shoe-making companies in Ethiopia. And I'm sure if we had a good policy, that company would have come to Kenya, not Ethiopia. The other question, Bonasias, is that you have said that you have a line of people who want to come and invest in our country, and you're looking for land. Now, in my constituency, Kiambu, we have Sasini, which has EPZ. And I've spoken to Sasini, and they are willing to lease that land. So, Bona PS, I would love if you could give me one of those companies, or two. They come to Kiambu, create employment. Because in my manifesto, when I was campaigning, I told my people that I'll create employment, or I'll bring companies to Kiambu. So, on a light note, Bonasias. So, thank you very much, Chairman. That's all.
Shieni is back, but before Shieni, let us consider Kuro. Kuro is there. So that after Kuro, then Shieni, then from that end, to get some answers and get the last tail of question from the two members here.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. First of all, I want to thank the CS for a very long comprehensive he has given us. Mine is on the issue of the investors in the United Arab Emirates. It's on the issue of United Arab Emirates. I want to know from the minister the status of the negotiation which he has just talked about under the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement with the United Arab Emirates. There are stories that the United Arab Emirates have come up with consultants who are now dealing with the Kenyan government. So is there a standard operating procedure for the same? That's my question.
Thank you. Let us proceed to Shieni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Joroga Wainina. I said, Member of Parliament for Kenny. And I have the following. Some are points of information. Like I would want to say that currently Kenya is no longer an agrarian community. And it is for that purpose that this ministry is very key and very important to the survival and the future of this country. And for that purpose, I would want to really put you to the point, Bwana Waziri, that the new elephant in the room is the African Free Trade Area, where our market can be attacked from every corner from any African country. Your ministry have strategies where we can also hit the market where we are hit. Otherwise, if we wait without engaging industrialists and also connecting them to the market, they will just stay here and other people will come with all kind of materials and they will sell to our country. On the other side, it is that this world is becoming a small world. The world is becoming a small village, and the use of technology might phase us out. And it is for this reason I'm telling you that even if you, the Ministry of Industrialization, without looking at the cost of power in this country, your 5-year term will come to an end with achieving very little. It is for this reason I would really ask you people at the ministry to not only look at hydropower producing techniques, but also ask ourselves, where is UAE drawing their power from? Where are the countries where they don't have hydropower drawing their power from? And we can also borrow from them, and without lamenting so much about the power that has not been very cheap to us, we look at what they are doing and we produce just like them. Otherwise, we have that are producing power and also being industrialized, and at the same time, their cost of power is as low as maybe those who have ample hydroelectricity. My last point of information, Mr. Wazili, is that the government, through your ministry, the other day decided that we are going to import some foods to just bring the cost of living down. Wazili, the method used in that one may not achieve the purpose that it was designed for. For instance, you put all the importers in Mombasa and Nairobi, and they have also come up with their own other cartels. So for the food that the government has invested a lot to bring the cost of food down, it is not getting there because the cartels in Mombasa and Nairobi are not letting these people. They wake up in the morning, they set their price, this is the today's price, and therefore they kill the purpose of competition. Wazili, I would have suggested that because the food shortage is all over the country, and you have decided that this is what will be imported. We have similar, we distribute the importers in Kisumu, in Mandela, in Nanyuki, in Nairobi, in Kajiado, in that that food will get to every village, other than having this food only in one location or 2 locations in Nairobi. And therefore, when you give a certain community right to import, every morning they shut, they set up price. But if there was an importer in Kitale, he will not maybe in a position to canvass with other traders outside there. And for that purpose, we also identify what is needed per region. And we give the importer in that region what is needed for that region. Maybe in Mandela, Garissa, Wajir, they may not need a lot of maize, but they may need a lot of rice. In that, the importer in that region, you increase him the ration for rice. I think that one, I had my case there, and I would want to suggest that put enough figures in this one. This is the ministry that will take this country forward. We have realized that. We have said that one in various committee meeting, that if we get it wrong at the Ministry of Industrialization, the whole country gets it wrong. So everybody is looking upon this committee, is looking upon the minister, upon the PSs, that we set our priorities right to take the agenda of this country forward. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Shane. CS, because of the interest of time, I think let us give opportunity to the other members so that you can just respond to one. And I'm sure that the media is also hearing to leave, so that maybe if they have anything to ask you, they can have also an opportunity. But before I pass the mic, there is these numerical machines. These numerical machines, complex. In terms of manufacturing of metal parts, have they been meeting their targets, and because we have not had enough from them, and we would like to know how are they faring, and what is that business really working out. Maybe we may be always popping money, but we're always making loss. So it's better that we know what is their books of account. How do they perform? And lastly, CS, we have a giant in terms of liberalizing our textile industry. It's not fair when our investors will be depending on importing materials outside. When we have a loom to expand the base of material production in the special areas like cotton, I am not seeing it wise or prudent use of our resources when we split our resources into various number of ministries. You realize this is majorly under agriculture. But since we have Rivertex, which has been mandated by the law to take care of this area of cotton, right from the seedling to the comparatives, those aggregates, all the way to the manufacturing. At the cabinet level, why can't you maybe urge the cabinet to put the resources for this cotton production in one basket under the Rivertex, so that we can at least boost them and we can task them to give us results. But when we rely on a various number of agencies on this, we can't be able to know whether those who are dismal performing is Rivertex or whether is the agriculture. I realize that in the last budget, over 200 million were budgeted for this particular sector. But no single penny went to the ground. I don't know why the money was diverted. But if this money was basket on one basket, I think we could be able to say, no, don't divert this. So I think in this area, and because really we need to task Rivertex and we need to see Rivertex growing and supporting other investors that we are intending to come, it's of essence when we support them and boost them and see the match they can be able to do. Always we have been saying Rivertex is not doing well, but I think it's a high time that we must give it a loom so that at least we can see how much they can be able to offer to Kenyans. Thank you, Mr. CS. Let me allow Honorable Sakiba a minute and Honorable Aruch a minute so that at least we can sum up from there and you can give us a response and we can.
Thank you, Chair. I thought you forgot us because we are on this side. But thank you that we got an opportunity to give an input. My 2 or 3 points only. One, I wanted to say the same thing maybe you said. There's a public claims, and sometimes people are asking a lot of questions in the public domain. That was really needed to clarify on them the issue of moving the office to where it was gazetted to Kiambu, and maybe if the stakeholders and the public were involved, because that's a question that is in the public domain. Number 2, as I'm also an expert in public policy. And when I look at about the issue of privatization, and I want to buy the 2 or 3 governments, when Kibaki came in and Moi left, because that's the same thing we are facing now. Whereby when we came in, the economy was doing bad, but Kibaki was able, in his regime, to revive our economy. When I look about privatization should be a process of building more new commercial organization. That's how you make an economy to grow. But now when I see privatization, I ask myself questions towards the issue of monopolistic or other companies becoming monopoly on basic things that the government are offering. If you look at now Kenya Meat Commission is in the list of being privatized. Then you ask yourself, this rush of selling, are we selling to build more? Or we are just selling for purpose of getting money? Because that means that we are killing our industries. Kibaki used, when I learned and I found, Kibaki revived all those like sugar companies, the Sony ones, and he was able, even during the issue of doing the roads and development, he could take the money from there and invest in doing the roads and cut down the issue of borrowing. But now here, we are selling them. We don't know who's going to buy, what's the motive of selling, and what is the motive of that kind of process that is going on. And this is a question that the public is really asking, and I thought it's good to ask. So that we don't just sell, but the public need to know why are they selling. Maybe to go to the last point that touches us, I appreciate that we talk with you during the lunch hour. But again, the issue of Namanga, we talked about border. We wanted to know if there's a process of doing a one common warehouse that can facilitate our storage of food, more the perishable, that is mean the cold rooms, for the growth of business between the two countries, Kenya and Tanzania. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'll just ask two short questions. The first question is in relation to CS, an allocation that was requested in the supplementary budget of about 250 million. I think this was for a feasibility study for county industrial parks. My question is, could you provide us with a list of activities that will be funded under this particular request that you have made, specifically in terms of activities, which counties will be the beneficiaries, and how you're going to go about this? I think my second question really will lean more towards what my colleague Oundo had said, and which I think you have conceded, that this BPS engagement could have been heavier, more towards policy, but I appreciate that you add a rider, that they have bundled together the question of ceiling, yeah? And therefore you have suggested that maybe Parliament could consider unbundling those. I appreciate that. However, looking at the documents that you have presented, and I am looking at two documents, you could have done a lot more in terms of engaging us in terms of policy, even as you are tied with the unbundling issue on the question of ceiling, to do more in terms of your proposed legislations and regulations that could fill some of the gaps in terms of policy. I am looking at this document that you circulated. I think this was from the State Department for Industry, this one called MITI. And there is, I think towards the tail end, the second last page, support required in terms of legislation. I say that because with my background, that's what interests me most. We are a house that makes laws under Article 95. Now, rather than present us with draft legislations and fill our intro with, these are drafts, and I think they are close to about 15. I think I would be happier if my intro was full with all these proposed amendments, the regulations which you say need to be revisited, acts that needs review, bills that needs to be brought into place, like the prompt payment bill, the export investment bill. I have no idea that any of those draft bills are pending anywhere and have not come to us. So I have a big problem on you presenting us with a long wish list on an engagement that is policy-based. I would have been happy to spend half a day discussing some of these in draft form, not just a long wish list. And I look at this again I think this is by the State Department on Investment Promotion. I think at page 5, key sectoral policies underlying the expenditure ceiling. Again, very, very interesting things that could engage us. I'm looking at this document here. But are there drafts, cabinet memos, draft regulations that you could bring us on a day like today? And I'm saying this as I wind up because this is the first real budget for the Kenya Kwanza administration. It will take you close to about a year with your experience as a legislator of 3 terms or more. By the time you bring these regulations, you will be doing your 2nd or 3rd budget. At what point will all these regulation and proposed bills, which will plug into the gaps that you've identified, reach this committee and therefore translate into you implementing your programs and activities based on identified gaps that have come to us and that we have sorted out in terms of our mandate under Article 95. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me allow Vice Chair just a minute, please.
Thank you, Chair. I have looked at your BPS, and there is information we require so that we can be able to make an informed decision. One is the A in A. Now, there is a requirement or request for A in A, and if we look at the allocation vis-a-vis your estimates, A in A has been cut. So if we are able to know for those agency sagas that their A in A has been cut, how much do you produce as A in A, or estimated, how much are you estimating to produce in A in A so that we can see how to appropriate accordingly? Because if your A in A has been cut and you have actually generated, we do not need to cut it, we can give it back to you. The other issue is the issue of grants and other transfers. I think this is mainly the Ministry of the State Department for Trade. There is grants in 2023-24. You have about 4.8 billion in terms of grants, but estimated given to you is 1.1 billion. So I would have expected the same grants to be the same, because this is money coming to you. Why would we reduce grants? So maybe a small explanation, what is that really? Because it's just figures that we have here, grants and other transfers. And then for CS, you've talked about getting funding, external funding for this ministry. Do we expect to have counterpart funding for those external funds that you're going to get? Because that will help us in terms of putting this document together. And finally, for CESA, or special economic zones, I believe there is already investments that are, or infrastructural investments that have been done in some, or proposed to be implemented in the special economic zones, like roads, water, which are being undertaken by other ministries other than yourselves. If we can be able to know how much has been put and is going to be implemented, so that we know that the funding that you are seeking for then would go into what areas. Is it building shades, so that we don't just do infrastructure and the infrastructure wastes away? We need to do infrastructure that is already being undertaken or going to be undertaken by other ministries, and we also give you enough funding for you to be able to do then the last component of which is warehouses and maybe water treatment plants or whatever it is, to be able to allow investors to invest into our country. And finally, for CS, in terms of cost of power, you've had our colleagues mention, we need you to think outside the box in terms of getting the cost of power for our investors. We cannot talk about bringing investment when KPLC are talking about increasing the cost of electricity. And if you look at that electricity, what KPLC is doing is averaging all the total cost of electricity from the most expensive to the cheapest. And in fact, the person who pays the highest is the investor. Can that change? Let the investor get the cheapest power, because that then will allow us to grow this economy.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Over to you, CS. Now the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members, for very pointed and very relevant questions. I'll attempt to answer most of them if any of my PSs will support me. Let me address the issue of this China question and Yamakima and all that. I think, first of all, Kenya is open for investment. We cannot lock any investor out. Our law protects every investor. That is their entitlement and that is their right. But I also think a lot of business people in this country look upon me as a cabinet secretary to give them my direction and my opinion about which direction should take. And I've received a letter where my PSs are supposed to appear before your committee to answer on this issue of China Square. Just received it as we speak. And we respect Parliament, so we will honor the summons. So what I'm going to say here is what we will repeat when we come to you again on this issue, I think on Tuesday. We have not forced anybody to close their business, but we deserve the right to give our opinion on something. And my opinion is that we should be encouraging people to set up factories here, to sell goods here, because what they are selling here, it is not rocket science. We can do it here. That position is not changing, and I stand by it. We should not be importing phone covers and all those things which you can make here. That is why I'm asking for Parliament again and again to support our proposed legislation to really discourage dumping and people who won't use Kenya as a dumping ground. Chair, by yourself, you said that there used to be those days when industrial area you could find people walking, riding on their bicycles, queuing for jobs, and they are not there anymore. I want to tell you they are there, only that they are in China. Those queues are there, but they are in Chinese factories. Those queues are there, but they are in a place called Yu. They are in a place called Guangzhou. That's why they are not in the industrial area. I'm not saying anybody close down, but I'll keep saying again and again, for the sake of record and the sake of history, that this is not helpful to our country. Why now the American dollar is strengthening, we are crying about it, is because cumulatively they have said America first. And I'm saying Kenya first. I'm saying there's no point of exporting Kenyan jobs out there. Chair, I want you to ask yourself, this China Square, is there a matatu stage there? I have checked and I've sent my team to check. There is none. I wish there's a matatu stage in Ito China Square. What am I saying? Who is shopping at China Square? Are they the hustlers from Dandora? Because if they're hustlers from Dandora, there could be a stage for matatus. These are people driving. I want to talk to the middle class of this country. That middle class guy with his Mitsubishi Lancia, who is shopping at China Mall, China Square, he may have paid his school fees for his children. But that woman from Dandora, who is selling fish in Dandora, does not know how she's going to pay school fees. So when I see even those makereles on Twitter, I ask myself, who is the real stakeholder in this country? I'm told yesterday there were 2,000 people. How are they counted? They counted vehicles, 2,000 vehicles. Chair, MP for Embakasi North. Tell me how many people from Dandora walichukua gari, wakaenda China Square, wakapaka hapo, wakaanza kushop. This is middle class conspiracy. This is not nothing to do with the hustlers. The people in the informal sector in this country, they are supporting 3 to 4 million people of your own constituents. But when it comes to this, they have no voice. They are not on Twitter. They are not on TikTok. They can't be quoted on TV. What is quoted is, oh, it is our right to buy cheap.
Because that guy does not care whether that mama from Nyamakima or Gikomba amelipa school fees or has not paid school fees. I want to say something. When Mao was building China, he had several groups of people. And there is one people called Comprado Bourgeoisie, whose work was only to sell the interest of China to other countries for a fee. Some of the middle class in this country, the Twitterati of this country, we risk a danger. When an issue comes, they scream. They go on Twitter, they scream. They have a better voice. They are better represented than the millions of people whom we represent. As a minister, I have a duty to speak for those people who will not get on Twitter. I have a duty to speak for that woman of Nandora, Nyamakima, and Gikomba, and Mudurwa, and that market, Kamukonji market in Nyeri, or that market in Eldoret, or that market in Kondere, who will never have their voice on Twitter. But because some 2,000 people who go and park their car in China Square buying, we want to buy cheap. What about that person who is eking their livelihood from selling wares? Who is going to speak for them? Anyhow, China Square has opened. So I thought that should end that story. I continue supporting local manufacturing. Even those people from Nyamakima, even those people from Gikomba, I'm going to have a conversation with them and tell them, how can I make products that are made here in Kenya available for you? That is why I'm even working with my counterparts to see how we can have our own Kenya Square, to have our locally available product here to be sold not by big people, but by those traders from Nyamakima. But I say this, I am the minister in charge of investment. I go around all over the world looking for investors. Nobody is more concerned about protecting investors than myself, because I spend taxpayers' money going to bring in investors, and I cannot frustrate investors. But I am old enough and ugly enough to know that there are some people who are investors, there are some people who are dumping on us, and I think history will prove me right. So I hope the issue of China Square will not come again. I will continue doing what I have to do to promote Kenyan manufacturers. I will do whatever I have to do to promote our traders, people who are getting their school fees from doing their trades. And I say it is unfair and immoral and unjust and unethical to say that you need somebody to come from China to sell brass in China Square. To sell brass does not require any special qualification. Even people from Gatundu, where I come from, can do that. But this is a country, it is ours. Let me say this. We have a committee. Now, part of my contribution when I was appointed is a discussion I had with the president to set up a National Investment Council as provided for by the Kenya Investment Act, the act that creates Kenya Investment. It provides for a National Investment Council of 22 people. 11 of them are from public sector ministers, including the president, who is the chair of the Investment Council. Somebody has talked about Rwanda and how they treat investors in Rwanda. Is because in Rwanda, the discussion on investment is led by the President Kagame. Now in Kenya, it is everybody there. I think here you've talked about textile and all that, how it is stranded over all of the ministries. I totally agree with you. So part of what I was doing, and I want to say that I was fortunate because the president did agree with me, is that since this act was passed, I think some years back, more than 10 years, we have never operationalized the National Investment Council. And the importance of the National Investment Council is that it is that one forum which talks about these issues we are talking about here. We look at cost of power, we look at cost-cutting issues, cross-cutting issues which are affecting ministries. Now, I think in December or January thereabout, the president did gazette the National Investment Council. And next week we'll have the first inaugural meeting of the National Investment Council. As provided by the law, the chair is the president. As provided by the law, I am the secretary. We have got 10 other ministers who sit there, including the Minister for Energy. We have got 11 representatives from the private sector who will be sitting together and hopefully every week to discuss these issues. So when we start sitting at the National Investment Council, the issues that you raise about cost of power, because I totally agree with you, we cannot continue to have industry subsidizing for everybody else for cost of power. More so we cannot continue having Kenya Power as a revenue collection agency. Warma, you get your power bill, you find Warma there. Why can't Warma collect their money? Why do they need to do it through your power bill? So this is a conversation that we've been having with the Minister for Energy. And now that we have the National Investment Council, because this is really frustrating manufacturing and investment, I propose to have it there. And Chair, subject to concurrence by the President, I will be inviting also at least the chairs of these committees from the National Assembly and the Senate to sit as observers in our National Investment Council meetings. So that also you can be able to help us with the thinking of what the people out there are saying. Because what's happening now, or what has been happening, is that as the executive, we close ourselves somewhere, we don't talk to Parliament, and therefore we don't gain from the benefit of knowing what are the undercurrents of the people. The pending bills issue is a very big issue. It affects, I am the complainant because I represent business. So this is a conversation we need to have with the Treasury. I know Treasury is having, looking at very innovative ways. I will give you one sector, the road sector, where we have pending bills right now of close to 300 billion shillings and commitments to complete the roads that we have. We need another 900 billion shillings. And we are looking for off-balance sheet mechanism to solve these problems. And this problem is both in the national government and in the counties. I remember in the 12th Parliament, I did pass, and this was killed at the Senate because of the wars between National Assembly and the Senate, and I hope we can revive it. In the miscellaneous bill of 2018, Parliament, and some members here were there, they supported me. I remember Dr. Undo he spoke to this bill when I presented it to Parliament, to have a promissory note given to suppliers of government, so that there has to be some consequence. You cannot just tell someone, supply me the goods and services, and then you fail to pay me and you give me nothing. And by the way, this does not even get its way to the national debt. So if we owe contractors 500 billion shillings, on the very minimum, let us change the PFM Act so that we recognize that as part of national debt. Maybe because of IMF we will pay. If we can't pay because of ourselves. Yeah. Second thing, for counties, and this is a question also I'll pose to Senate committee. Why do we allow counties to procure on the basis of estimates? I think that privilege, it's not even a privilege, it's a bad privilege. But on the very minimum, if something bad has to be done, let's leave it to national government. So now, county government of Nairobi will say we are going to collect the own source revenue of, let's say, 10 billion. So they take that 10 billion, they procure against it. So when that 10 billion does not come, what does it become? A pending bill. I'm not saying this because I'm being selfish and not wanting same treatment for national government, but at least for the county government, because we seem to have a bigger problem in the counties, even more than national government. I'm going to be asking Senate to consider that all procurement, we pass whatever law we need to pass, all procurement should be based on shareable revenue, not on estimates of own source. Let own source be a surplus, which can be rolled over to the next year. Yeah? But when we allow people to procure on the basis of estimates of revenue they may collect, and Honorable Mashua, you know, the county where you and I come from has got pending bills of 5.2 billion because they procured against, estimates that they will collect this revenue, which when it doesn't come, then it becomes another problem. A question was raised on the branding and export promotion. No, we don't have a new body. Keproba is the one that is going to lead that process. As I have said, we are going to rename Keproba to the Kenya International Trade Agency. Also a question about merging some of these state corporations. Cabinet, in the last cabinet, did approve that Keproba and Ken Invest be merged. And I fully support that, because even now I have a problem. When I am traveling abroad, sometimes it's a trade issue, sometimes there's no boundary really. So if I come to you in Parliament and suggest that we merge the Kenya Investment Authority with Keproba, please support me so that when I go out there, I have got a unified, a way that we can be able to approach this. I think a question was raised about KNTC, and I hear that I hear your question that we supply documents for the processes and the procurement. We will do that. What I wanted the guidance is, do we start in 1965? Because that is when KNTC was established. We don't have a problem. So if you can guide us from 1965, because I've been doing the same thing, following the public procurement rules and following all the rules. So if we can have some guidance so that you can know exactly.
Chair, we can just sum up that.
Yeah.
We may require for the last 3 financial years.
3 financial years. Okay. I think PS. Yeah. So we can have 3 years. Yeah. All the plans and all the processes we need to supply to Parliament on that issue. I want to come to the issue of cost cutting. I like this question, really. I like the guidance. Now let me shock you. In my ministry, before we have these county aggregation and industrial parks, which may absorb some of the people, staff, and why I like this project is because I have, in my estimation, 1,200 employees that I don't need. They wake up every day. They go to work. You can't blame them. They have nothing to do. Some of them are in the field. They have not even no money for fuel, but we give them salaries. In the Department of Internal Trade, I have close to 400 people I don't need. They do nothing. They wake up in the morning, they go to work. I just have been having a discussion with my peers for industry about some field officers called, what do you call them? County Industrial Development Officers. They are there. CDOs. They earn salary. Tell me, we have no count. Which have you ever encountered any of these people? Maybe in some of yeah. They have no money for fuel. They have no nothing. So really, I have 2 options. Because we don't have a retrenchment program. If I have a retrenchment program, I would retrench them. But I don't have a retrenchment program. So I have now promised the good governors that at least because they are earning salaries, whether they work or not, and we are rolling out, that's why this program is very important also. Because we are rolling out the county aggregation and industrial parks, at least I will give every governor, and they have accepted, at least 10 or so of these very experienced officers who are doing nothing, absolutely nothing. Yeah? And for me, it's okay because we are providing employment. Just think of it, that for the last 5 years or so, or 10 years, we have people who have been waking up, going to work in the morning, over 1,000 in one ministry. Ask yourself, I'm one ministry, we have 22. Multiply by 22. How much of, when we see we have got problem with borrowing, with debt, with recurrent expenditure, how much of this happens? And I want to invite both Parliament and the Executive to look at this issue critically. Some of these people, now we have got very good business opportunities. Maybe we need to work with, maybe we need to train them and show them how to be entrepreneurs. And it's, I am very much convinced that a second handshake, maybe they should invest in the industrial park. But anyhow, as part of the cost cutting, I want to tell you, it's not just about rents and all these things. It's a much bigger problem, a lot of waste, a lot of people that are not doing anything. Either we give them something to do or whatever. So
CS, allow Honorable to interject.
Is it interjection?
I appreciate your outrage at the huge contingent of 1,000 plus people who do nothing. But sitting here listening to you lament when you have the opportunity to come up with a cabinet memo, you remember what happened to Telcom employees, and I acted for them when I was a lawyer in my previous life. There was a cabinet memo where they came up with a retrenchment package, that allowed the exit of hundreds of thousands of people from Telcom. I think this committee has a lot of idle time that they could use if you came up with a cabinet memo in which cabinet said, we are planning to retrench X number of people, please budget for it in the main budget. So I think we are engaging in a budget policy discussion from people who are supposed to come up with the policy, the recommendation, and they're lamenting more than us. I think that's offensive.
Honorable member, the only reason I'm raising this is to show you why it is important to have the county aggregation and industrial parks, because they will help me to use people who are doing nothing. And I seek your I seek your support in that.
Ondo, 1 minute, please.
And please, I know, but if I do that, I know you still go to court.
CS allow Ondo to have a second, just a second.
Chair, it is unfortunate that the minister of the department intends to dump a problem to another state organ. That since this has become a skunk, let me look for somewhere to dump it so that it can smell somewhere and not my problem. Remember, we are all the same country, same government, same resources. If truly we have no need for those members of staff, just prepare a retrenchment package, let them go and do other things in life. Because I can tell you, Waziri, it's a very good idea on paper. The idea of county industrial, whatever parks you want to call them. But with the mentality of our governors and the fact that the government has never been good at doing business, that's another scandal in the offing. That's another avenue to loot both national funds and equitable share of national revenue.
Honorable Undo, let's be hopeful. And by the way, let's keep some optimism, because if I listen to you, we'll give up and say now because counties are bad, governors are bad, we do nothing is not an option. And I will give you an example. In your own county of Busia, we've got land there, 870 acres. Yeah? Which you have agreed with your governor and with your senator, and I hope to agree with yourself. Let's give it a try. Because this 870 acres is sitting idle there. Are you telling me not to come and build it? Can I tell the people of Funyula that?
No.
Yeah.
No, my people of Funyula will not mind because they know. But because now we are talking at that level, you can take my advice, and I'm sure we are here with you for some time to come. God will give you life. And I'm sure even if we don't meet in this forum, we'll meet somewhere else after 5 or 6 years, and these members will tell you, we told you.
My friend, that's what I'm saying. Me and you, we have one responsibility to make it work. So we agree, one, do nothing is not an option. Two, let's all work together to make it work. Me, I'm giving optimism a chance, and I want to assume everybody is good until they prove themselves. Otherwise, you know. And finally, by the way, as a matter of clarification, this program will be rolled out by national government, not by county governments. Okay? So you have a chance to oversight me on how we roll out this particular program. Yeah? And this program will be done with full participation of Parliament. Yeah? Even in terms of selection. I will not. I have already met the governors. They have given me the land. They are the custodians of the land. I have given them some of my money. They have given me part of their money. We will pull it together, agree on a framework. I will come back to this committee, yeah, to present that framework, because you are helping me. You are not the policeman. You are facilitating. You are helping me to make it a better. But can you imagine how wonderful it would be if we all combine your oversight capability, your professional capability to make this work? If it works, it is something that has never been done before. And to come back to your question, because of that, me, I don't need now a retrenchment package. I'm not dumping them. They are very good officers, by the way. Very qualified. Just that we've not given them something to do. So what I've done, at least I have given them something to do. I'm not sending them there to continue hanging their jackets in the counties. I'm telling them, go to Busia, because you've been trained as an industrial officer, go and do something there. So, by the way, we really have to know I really like your comment, Mheshimiwa, that we have one country. We don't have two countries. Let's try now. Tukishindwa tuambie wengine msijaribu, sisi ndio tulikuwa mwisho tukashindwa. But let's give optimism a chance and try to do something. I am sure something good will come out of this. Honorable Anthony Roach, you take your county of Nairobi, 600 acres, sitting idle there at Jamhuri Park, 1 week per year, it is being utilized. Si afadhali hata tukawanye tupatie people of Madale constituency, at least they can make better use of it. So I'm not saying, no, but you will be judged as a generation, because it is our time, it is our generation, both in all levels of leadership. What did we do about it? Anyway, let me address the issue of the UAE. I think Honorable Kolo raised the issue of the UAE. I am not aware of any consultants who are discussing with the Kenya government. The Dr. Dani, the Minister for Trade, is my counterpart. We are the two policy people there. My PS Kobudo is my chief negotiator. We have got a guy called Juma from that Ministry UAE who is already there with Dr. Kobundo. So we don't have any consultants working on the. This is a government to government negotiation, which I'm very proud to say that it is almost coming to an end. Yes.
What is the status of the negotiation?
Oh, good. We have got only 2 topics remaining. We have given them until end of this week. I think by end of this week we will clear, resolve any pending issue. We don't have any major things. I think we should be ready to come to Parliament with that agreement any time now. And these are because this package is not just a trade negotiation. It has so many other investments that are coming onto it. I am not doing this just for trade. That is important. UAE is an important market. I am doing it also because it is going to signal a lot of investment. Visibility study, I think Honorable Roach have answered that because first of all, it's not 250 million. You guys gave us 100 million for that. 150 million was for the conference we are going to have in May for the Africa top 100 companies in Africa. So we need to ensure that when I come to Jamhuri Park, we need to do some study exactly to avoid the kind of problems that members are raising here. That if we don't plan, if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. So that when we go there, we say this particular industrial park is good for this and not for that and all the others. And I think Vice Chair also mentioned about the people who are going to fund us. Are we having counterpart funding? And the answer is yes. And I think as members have pointed out, this now can come in BPS as a statement of policy. And then hopefully by the time of estimate, we are going to convert it into estimates. Let me say this as I conclude on all the other questions. I have taken very careful consideration to the remarks by members. Very, very useful. I have taken guidance on the issue of the policy. And I'm instructing my officers that we now convert all the feedback we have received from these members into our own, policy attachment, which we are going to send to the committee and to be fed into the budget policy statement. Because this was not just a question and answer session. I think it was to make us better. I think we take it in stride. We have listened to all your comments and your concern. We think, and I'm convinced that we need to send you our own version of not just figures, give me that, but we need to be more sharp in terms of our policy focus. I think we need to send to Parliament a policy statement to be put into the policy statement so that we have a philosophical footing in terms of where we are coming from. I have seen a member for Kajiado South. Let me try to answer your question first because I know you have forgotten. This is very important. And if I forget, please just remind me. On the issue of borders, in February, I have seen 11 presidents, among them President Museveni and President Samia Suluhu, on the issue of borders. I am convinced, and please don't crucify me for confessing, I'm a Catholic. We are allowed to sin and to confess. I am convinced that Kenya needs to do much better in terms of facilitating trade within the EAC. We need to do our part, even before we blame other people. And I want to invite, and discuss this with the Vice Chair of our lunch, I want to invite the committee, please, that we do visit this border post together. We organize for this visit. I want you to explain. And by the way, we will go incognito. We will not say we are members of parliament, or we are ministers, we are this, we are that. I want us to drive through Malaba. And I'm offering Honorable Anthony Roach. We leave our cars in Bugoma, so nowhere near from there. Then we go and take a truck to Ingia kwa truck. We go to Uganda and back, if you are ready for that, so that we can experience life from the shoes of that guy in that truck who is doing our cross-border business. And I want to do the same with Namanga and with Loitoktok. I want to do the same with Isiolo, Moyale, for the Ethiopian border. I will give you an example. In Uganda, they have got scanners. The URA, the Uganda Revenue Authority, they have scanners. So when our goods get into, and these are our exports from Kenya to Uganda, mark that sentence, they are our exports. So this truck gets to Malaba, scanners are activated. The control room of those scanners is somewhere in Kampala. What do the Ugandans do? They let the truck pass. Then an anomaly is detected in the control room in Kampala. They have their own policemen on the road. So a signal goes, that truck number XYZ, please stop it because it's done something. We have discovered an anomaly. So the police on the road, they stop it. They stop the truck on the road. Because of that, there is no queue from the Kenyan side crossing to the Ugandan side to facilitate our own business. What do we do? I'm saying the other way around. What do we do for Kenyan trucks? We stop them at the border until they queue there. Is that reasonable? So you're accusing me of crying and complaining. I'm only 4 months. I'm just saying this. I'm only saying this because I want us to walk this journey together. Mheshimiwa of Loitoktok, I want us to walk this journey together. And I want, the only thing that guides us should be common sense. I don't even want any law. Let us go there to the borders and ask ourselves, does this really make sense? Our president has said he does not even want to see a one-stop border. We are going towards zero border. Yeah? Zero stop border. If we have to do this, there are some things we do differently. You and I have the same mandate, in terms of getting this done. So, Chair, with your kind indulgence, let's plan to visit all these border posts. Let's go and experience what our traders are going through. In doing so, I have the commitment of the President of Ethiopia, Prime Minister Abiy, President Museveni, and President Suluhu. As we do that, we are not doing it alone. They are sending their ministers and their teams to come and do that with us so that we can be able to feel life from the other end.
CS, let us allow the member for... proceed.
Yeah, Waziri, is about the issue of privatization.
I'll answer it.
You'll answer it. And then the issue of the office, Waziri, because it's been asked. Thank you.
This one. Then you can go to the other. I want to answer this because it's, for me, I find it an unfortunate question. The so-called Kiambu County is in Nairobi County, and the so-called building is owned 27% by this ministry which you oversight. It's like being accused of being in your own house. I don't know what to do. We own that building, 27%. And everything we pay there comes back to us. We actually try to say, come there, many people, so that we are promoting our own goods.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, so on the issue of privatization, I think it's a common factor, and it's a philosophy of government that the government, it's not the business of government to do business unless it is absolutely necessary, because the function of government is just to facilitate and enable. So when it is absolutely necessary to invest, you just incubate. Once it matures or it is sunk cost, you exit so that you can invest in other strategic areas. So we just don't divest just to keep the money, but we divest and then we invest in other strategic areas or priority areas of government. On the issue of investors and their products in the flower and the avocado sector. So as far as products are concerned, we are approaching it from a value chain approach. So my team is assessing that value chain in terms of the regulatory and the market structure, the process and the cost structure, so that we can see how viable the value chain is and how sustainable the supply chain is. And then we come up with intervention measures. As far as the investors themselves are concerned, they are a member of associations, like the one you're mentioning is the European Business Council, which we have engaged with them. We have identified the areas of reform. We have an action plan with them, and we have agreed that they will be assessing the progress after every 6 months. So we are on course. On the issue of legislative agenda, there are different stages of development. Some are under stakeholder workshops, after which we will share with this committee. But if you want them beforehand, we will share with you, Mheshimiwa. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'll just respond to about one or two. One was on the issue of diversifying our exports. I think that the potential lies, if you look at the 2022 export data, our leading export was tea at 18%, and horticulture at 14%, crude, animal and vegetable material at 10%. And we had textile at 5.9%, metal and other things at 4%, and coffee at 6%. So you can see the potential in terms of what then can we do more. The other issue that I would like to say is the issue of our industrial area. I know you have mentioned it. Chair, I think that we have a challenge as a country, whether our industrial area is actually manufacturing or buying things in bulk and repackaging. So that's a debate that we can look at. And some of those materials that are being used to repackage are declared as raw materials, so they attract sometimes zero tariffs. On Kiridi, I think we talked about incomplete building. I have visited Kiridi. The building is 17 floors, and I think much of it is completed. What we have agreed with Kiridi, instead of waiting for Exchequer, that they can actually rent off part of the building, which will then help them to finish the remaining building. So we are working with something with the board of Kiriti so that we can actually, because this has been an incomplete building since 2013, and I don't think we can continue to keep it like that. It's in a very strategic location. We'll also encourage sagas, like I think Scrap Metal, that are looking for office space from our State Department and others to also go and get offices there, so as a way of actually helping to complete that building. The other issue is we talked about mergers and whether we have sagas that we need or we need to do away with. I think that we have presented a very solid proposal. NMC, the numerical machines complex, has 1,200 acres in Mlolongo, which we can use to set up an industrial park for automobile. We also have a lot of people interested in green manufacturing, in electric vehicles, spare parts, brake parts, and we think that if we partner with stakeholders, especially a strategic partner to inject good money in the NMC, this is the company that produced our first car, the Nyayo Pioneer, and I think we need to do that. But we have a problem with its ownership structure. It looks like a baby that doesn't belong to anyone. So you have Kenya Railways, you have University of Nairobi, and they keep changing. So we are doing a cabinet memo to actually create a better ownership structure, because some of the members who are in the board have never even appeared there for board meetings. So it's like an abandoned child, but I think that we will do something. I talked about East African Portland and the industrial park for construction materials. It's a very viable thing. Also, East African Portland is sitting on nearly 30 years deposit of clinker. We are importing clinker because East African Portland, the rate at which they are harvesting their clinker is too low. So part of what we are also looking at is for them to find a strategic partner that can boost their clinker production. Then they will do this. Then they can supply clinker to other cement making factories instead of them importing from China, India, and others. And Rivertex, we have already talked about the issue of building an industrial park around Rivertex. We visited the company in Ethiopia. You saw it for yourself. SOX. If we can get other people to come and build their factories around Rivertex so that they can add value, make suits, make uniform, make socks, so that then we can do a better job. In terms of cotton, we have thought through this, and we are going to, next week we'll be in Busia, and I've already talked to Mheshimiwa. We are launching the cotton production in Busia, and we are doing it differently. The county government is registering the farmers by mobile and also by ID, and they will be provided with seed. They will produce, and what we have agreed so that the middlemen don't rush in and kill the business by buying very low prices is that the county government of Busia will buy all the cotton, and the ginnery that has been put up will then be used as an aggregation center so that all the cotton goes to the ginnery. The county government buys this at an agreed minimum price, say if it is 180, and then when they sell and they make more money, the farmers get a bonus over and above what they would have been paid. So that if Rivertex buys, they buy from one source. I know Undo is getting a, yes. Oh, okay.
Can you allow him to finish? Then
Let me finish, then I'll come there.
Let him finish,
Okay.
then you come in.
Sir.
I will allow you. I would
Okay.
allow you. Let him finish.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair, for protecting me, but this is the model that we were trying to build. And then I think the other issue that I wanted to mention is the issue of this financial year, Chair, we have put 140 million in the budget for cotton production. I know that some of this money is in the Ministry of Agriculture, but in the past, we've relied on cotton production from the Ministry of Agriculture that has not been forthcoming. I think the last issue that I want to indicate, Chair, is the issue of legislative agenda. Yes, as my colleague has said, these are at various levels. Maybe at some point, when we have enough drafts made, we can then maybe have a workshop with this team so that we can look through some of the things that we are doing so that we can move this legislative agenda forward. Thank you, Chair.
I just wanted to correct the PS on the issue of the cotton, and I'll speak for Luanda General Busia one, because I've babied that project since 2018. One, the county government has had zero input in the program so far. Secondly, the county government has not registered any farmer. That has been done by my office and AFA. Thirdly, the county government, and Professor Kiptugu, the MD for Rivertex, is here to bear me witness, has never included even a single cent in their budget for purpose of cotton purchase. Even as we speak now, even the supplementary that they passed yesterday, there's no single cent for cotton support. Even the CIDP, that's the final end of approval, has no mention for support of cotton, for cotton growing. So, allow the ginnery to run as a commercial entity. And that we have had serious and extensive discussion with the cooperative bank. We have had serious and extensive discussion with Thika Textile Mills, and we have had serious discussion with the Rivertex. Actually, there exists a tripartite memorandum to ensure that process moves on. So, PS, don't be sugar-coated, don't be taken for a ride and make us lose the ginnery. We have spent endless hours. Even as we speak now, Chair, there is an audit query of about 45 million that was purportedly released by the county government during Governor Jamong's tenure that never reached the ginnery, and the money was stolen. So don't take us to that route. Let us go as we have moved. If you confuse us, we will We with the people will take care of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Busia issue.
CS, you are on the floor.
Thank you. Chair, the threats to my PS on his bodily harm, notwithstanding from Dr. Undo, I want to ask that that visit next week, I'm going to make myself available to come to Busia. Yeah, to consult with you and the stakeholders. I agree on the 17th, I think, on the 17th, if possible. And please help me, my colleague, to talk to the other members of parliament to avail themselves there. I will come with my team. I will talk to the governor. We'll all be there, and we, on the ground, we will take what is the best decision for the people of Busia. Because this is about you. Sisi Busia tunakuja kukula samaki tunarudi.
Let me add something there, Chair. In my constituency in
Masinga, very short.
Yeah, in Masinga constituency, Thika Cloth Mills has established farmers whom they have taken care of by giving them the seeds. When it is mature, the Muindi lady comes and buys it all and takes it and gives them more seeds. I think a private identity will do better than the count.
And he knows. I am agreeing with you totally. Yeah. Even the one that was built by, is it the Leather Park? Is it Kisumu? Where there is the tannery. Is it the tannery? Yeah. Let me assure you, Mheshimiwa Mwaliu and Mheshimiwa Hundo, the president is against this where possible. Where we can have a private sector player is totally against us doing the job. Yeah. So even in Busia, if we come and we find somebody who can do it better, or even maybe Rivertex can do it better, or whatever you, or Rivertex, Professor, please come with us. If you agree with the local leadership, the Rivertex takes it over. That's what I'm saying. Let us not depend, first of all, on any law. We use the law of common sense. Whatever makes sense, we do it. We move on to something else. If this country, we have a culture of solving a problem, moving on, we agree what's the best thing to do. If it is your own generally, not for government, what would you do with it? We do it and we move on to other things.
Thank you very much. Maybe CS, there was one question which I have not had a response, and this was